So there's this game called Etherworld sitting right in front of us. You got this speaker with a mic pointing at some interactive whiteboard. The game dropped like 10 years ago as a dating sim for chicks, but somehow ended up with way more dudes playing it. We're looking at a bunch of characters from this game now. Etherworld let you pick from all sorts of characters, some simple but pretty solid, others super complex but basically useless. And there's this one sad dude among all these characters. Word is, there was this one particularly trash character that was insanely hard to play because he had zero good traits. And get this, some pervert actually mained this loser for a whole decade. The character's name was Ball. We see these folded hands, the owner sitting there, thinking about whether to boot up the game. In front of us is this young guy's face, staring at his computer monitor. This is our main character, and his name's Seal. We see some regular apartment building with sunlight hitting it just right. Our hero's sipping from his mug, scrolling through posts on some forum. The guy realizes something new went down in the game. Probably an update. Here's what users are bitching about. Some random dragon showed up out of nowhere and wiped everyone's save data. People are also complaining about their characters getting deleted and not being able to log in at all. Our guy's face shows total confusion. He can't figure out what the hell a final boss is doing in a dating sim. He thought the game was supposed to end when you successfully hooked up with another character. Here's another message. This user's complaining about some dark demonic dragon with 99% passive magic resistance that has no cooldown whatsoever. It keeps spamming this magic absorption skill, and it's literally impossible to kill. From the username, our hero recognizes this as one of Etherworld's most maxed out players. The young man still can't wrap his head around what a final boss is even doing in this game. Seal rubs his chin thoughtfully. He's like, what's the point of having a monster that nullifies all magic in a magical world? That's gotta be some kind of bug, especially since people are saying their characters are getting deleted. The guy finds the monster that's causing all this chaos. We see this terrifying beast. Apparently it's the dark demonic dragon, 13th moon of the Black Knight. Turns out in Etherworld, there's this cult organization called the Dark Demonic People. First we see these faceless hooded figures, then some specific character holding a purple orb, and finally this scary-ass dragon. Our hero explains that these cultists' goal is to help this other world called Persona Gate take over their world. When they finally pulled it off, this dark demonic dragon showed up. Seal rubs his chin again, deep in thought. He's like, 90% of the continent's already been taken over by Persona Gate forces. I used to only care about PvP, not the storyline, but now the whole world's gone to shit and that's just not normal. The guy stares at the screen thoughtfully. He realizes he can't avoid fighting this thing. He's gotta at least try. Click. The game asks if he wants to fight the dark demonic dragon. The cursor hovers over yes. The young man looks at the screen, ready to show off the skills he's been grinding for the past 10 years. This massive dragon towers over him. Seal looks ahead with determination. The guy explains that his character is literally the only one in the game who can't use magic. He's holding a sword. Since pretty much everyone can use magic in this game, even the most experienced players avoid this character like the plague. Seal grips his sword, ready for battle. The hero admits he's worse than even the NPCs. His boot touches the ground. But here's the thing. This character can use one magic skill. A flash erupts from the dragon's mouth. This sparkling white orb rockets toward our hero. The guy looks a bit scared at first, then breaks into a grin. The young man zips around the monster's body at lightning speed. The skill he's using is called Blink. Seal spreads his arms wide, sword visible in one hand, eyeing his enemy carefully. The dragon opens its massive jaws. Our hero looks up at his opponent. The Blink skill lets him move super fast over a distance of 3 to 10 meters, completely random. The young man hits the ground, arms spread out. The direction he moves is totally random too, so if you don't control the jump distance right, you can literally die on impact from the speed and force. Seal rests his chin on his hand, thinking, on top of everything else, the cooldown time and mana consumption are absolutely ridiculous. Plus, after using the skill, the hero can't move for 2 seconds. Overall, it's not that hard to learn how to use this skill, but most players obviously don't bother with it. We see the eye of our young hero, the same guy who's mastered the Blink skill. The young man stands there, pointing his sword at the enemy. Seal apparently learned to control both the direction of movement and the jump distance. Plus, he stopped getting penalties for using the skill. Our hero realizes his character doesn't even use mana spast. That stat doesn't even show up in his character sheet. Unlike every other spell, Blink is basically just the ability to move in a really weird way. But here's the thing, our hero became totally obsessed with this character, because with him, everything depended purely on player skill. The hero's hand hits the keyboard. We see this bright white light in someone's eye. So for the last 10 years, our hero's been playing as the only character in the game who doesn't use magic in combat. Seal delivers this devastating blow, slicing the dragon right across the neck. The young man glances over his shoulder. The guy stares off into the distance thoughtfully. A message pops up about defeating the 13th moon of the Black Knight, the final boss. There's pure joy on our hero's face. He can't believe he actually killed the damn thing. Our hero looks at his computer monitor. He knows damn well he's decked out head to toe in the most powerful gear, but that doesn't make his character any less trash. There's an Eiffel Tower sitting in front of the keyboard. The hero's like, well, At least I had a blast. I gotta tell the community I killed the dark demonic dragon. Our hero clicks publish. The young man stares in wide-eyed horror at the notifications popping up in front of him, something about reaching the wrong ending and 90% of the world being destroyed. The next notification says he was the closest to reaching the true ending. Seal asks again in amazement, not getting what's happening to the game. The next system window asks him to reach the true ending now. Our hero's eyes fill with genuine terror as he screams loudly. In front of us, a chair, 2 glowing monitors, and a gaming chair. This powerful flash goes off above the guy's head. He's lying on the floor. Seal sits up and covers his face with his hand. He can't understand what's happening to him. The guy sits cross-legged on the floor, looking around, trying to figure out where the hell he is. Something seems to catch his attention. There's a mirror nearby. Our hero crawls toward it. We see the young man's eyes widen in shock. He sees his face and realizes the game character is staring back at him. Some sound echoes. Our hero turns toward it. A system window appears. Episode 1. Escape from the chase. The guy's eyes widen again in shock. He remembers, this is the prologue quest for the character Bal. The guy gets to his feet and clenches his fists. A drop of sweat runs down his cheek. The young man thinks this simply can't be happening. He puts his hand in his pocket. The guy stares wide-eyed at something. In his hands is a document. It's an admission certificate to Stella Academy. We see our hero's mouth. This is absolutely unbelievable, but he really ended up in Etherworld. The guy covers his face with his hand. He realizes he's now none other than Bal himself. Our hero removes his fingers from his face. He understands he needs to think logically. The voice he heard said he needs to reach the true ending. The young man bends his left arm at the elbow. He remembers this game doesn't have a true ending. It has several. Judging by his eyes, the young man realizes something. Maybe he doesn't know about the true ending's existence because nobody's managed to reach it in the past 10 years. The young man looks at the document, his hair covering half his face. The boy realizes now's not the time to think about this stuff. Our hero glances warily to the left. If memory serves him right after Bal wakes up, he has to escape from his pursuers. Our hero runs to a half-open window and looks outside. There's a bunch of people in hoods standing there. Their commander shouts loudly, asking where that son of a bitch they're looking for went. The young man hides behind the wall so he can't be seen through the window. The boy carefully peeks outside. Seems like one of the enemies spots him. The pursuers see the roof of a wooden house. One of them thinks the person they're looking for might be up there. The commander raises his hand and orders a search of the house. Our hero anxiously watches what's happening outside, trying to figure out his next move. The young man stands between 2 windows. He remembers there's a time limit for avoiding his pursuers. Our hero clenches his fist. He knows he can't fight them either. A blue system window appears in front of the young man. Seems like some idea pops into his head. It says he can use the blink skill. Our hero stares at the system window in amazement. He can't believe he can actually use this skill. In front of us is an icon. Above it says blink, and below it says flash forward. Seal suffers from magic leakage syndrome and can't accumulate mana in his body. Our hero stands there sadly, hands hanging at his sides. He has only one hope, the spell this player's been practicing for all 10 years in Etherworld. We see a snowy forest, then return to the present. The young man looks at the system window showing he can use the blink skill. We see the skill stats, class 0, max range, 9 meters, max charges, 1, cooldown 3 seconds. The guy's nervous as hell, sweat's dripping down his cheek. He doesn't really get how he can use blink right now. Before this, he's only done it in the game, controlling his character with a mouse and keyboard. We see a leg, belongs to one of the pursuers who's being chased by a whole mob of his buddies. Our hero hears them getting closer. Fear flashes in his eyes. He knows he's about to get caught. Seal grits his teeth. He realizes he's out of time. The guy peeks out the window. The only thing he can do is just try to use the skill. The pursuer's commander spots something. Our hero dashes past him. The leader orders his fighters to chase after the guy. The bad guys give chase. One of them yells for Seal to stop. The guy runs forward as fast as he can. Apparently, he's going through the first part of training. He needs to escape the chase using the blink skill. Sounds echo from deep in the forest. Seal rushes forward quickly. He realizes the pursuers wearing magical boots are way faster than him, and the only way to escape is to use the blink skill. We see our running young man's face. He mentally tells himself to chill out and reminds himself he's used this skill tons of times. Seal glances left. He realizes the timing is burned into his muscle memory. One of the pursuers is almost catching up to our young man. He calls the fleeing guy a son of a bitch and asks if he's finally gonna stop. Seal looks back and realizes he's about to get caught. The main problem with blink is that if the user doesn't control the distance, they can slam into something and die from impact. We see the tragic result of such a collision. The pursuer pulls out his sword and swings to kill our guy. The villain screams for our hero to go straight to hell. We see our hero's yellow eye. Seal realizes he's only got one way out and uses the blink skill. The pursuer strikes, but whiffs completely. Surprise flashes in our hero's eyes. He grins, realizing he pulled it off. The people chasing him are totally shocked. One of them asks if the fugitive actually used blink. Another one figures there's a mage in front of them. The leader tells his fighters not to lose heart. After using the skill, The user's always paralyzed for 2 seconds, so it's actually good that he used it. But after a moment, the commander realizes our hero isn't showing any delay. The guy keeps running. The leader of the pursuers yells loudly, asking how this bastard is still moving. Seal keeps running, mouth wide open. He thinks he should be super careful now. Snow-covered boulders appear in front of him. Seal thinks he should use the rough terrain to his advantage, but he realizes players who can't properly manage this skill will never reach the next stage. Seal runs forward, mouth wide open. He recalls that 99% of players who played this character couldn't even complete the training, and the percentage that handled this task couldn't master skills like blink distance control and continuous blinking. Seal mentally counts from 3 to 1. The guy uses the blink skill. We see how he quickly zips through the forest. The commander of the pursuers stares at the fleeing fugitive in confusion. He asks what kind of crazy bastard is in front of him. His using this skill in this area is just insane. He turns to his fighters and calls for those who can use magic to step forward. They need to attack the fleeing guy from a distance. Several people step up. Seal looks back as he runs. He knows magic's about to be used against him now. The second part of training is using the blink skill to dodge flying magic arrows. We see this as exactly what's happening now. Projectiles fly past our young man's head. He realizes it was way easier to dodge while sitting in front of the monitor, since he could see everything happening behind him. A blue system window pops up in front of the guy. It tells him the magic leakage syndrome skill is being used. The next window informs him about using the derivative skills, sixth sense, and cognitive acceleration. The guy's quickly running away from arrows flying at him. There are 2 heroes in front of us at once. Seal glances over his left shoulder. He realizes he needs to act now. We see his running legs. Our hero uses the blink skill. A powerful pink flash erupts behind him. Seal crouches on one knee, sticking his elbow out to the side. Energy keeps flowing behind him. Our hero looks back and realizes he almost got hit. The guy starts running again. We see him between 2 coniferous trees. Our hero realizes the last part of the test is coming up. His mouth's wide open. Seal stands on the edge of the abyss. Apparently, he's got to complete the third part of training, cross the canyon using the blink skill. We see tons of rocks hanging over the abyss. Our hero stands thoughtfully over the abyss. He knows the only way to cross it is to perfectly control using the skill. Then he'll be able to meet the mages passing by and escape. The training should end here. Our hero remembers a scene from the game, meeting with wizards, but to complete this part of training, he's got to incredibly accurately cancel the blink skill's effect, which gets used every 0.1 seconds. Seal knows if he makes even one mistake, he'll die right here. We see snow-covered rocks hanging in the air. Seal knows there are about 20 boulders here. The guy looks at them thoughtfully. He knows he's got to act with accuracy down to 1/10 of a second, and this is way easier said than done. Ball clenches his fist. He curses the bastard who came up with this training. Our hero stands on the cliff's edge. At some point, he realizes that honestly, all of this is totally doable. Fear's visible in our young man's eyes. He knows the main problem is he's being chased, and they've almost caught up. We see the pursuers. Seal looks at them thoughtfully. The chase caught up with him way earlier than he expected. The distance to the pursuers is about 100 meters. We see our hero's enemies keep running toward him as fast as they can. Seal realizes his skill only lasts 3 seconds, and that time isn't enough to cross the abyss. Our young man clenches his fist again. He realizes the most reliable way to survive this situation is to kill all the enemies. Our young man turns to his pursuers. Snow-covered stones hang in the air. Seal sits under a tree, anxiously looking off to the side. We see his face up close. The guy knows a completely insane idea just popped into his head. How can he do anything when he's never even fought before? Seal peeks out from behind a snowdrift. He realizes if this were a game, the system would make it impossible to attack those chasing him, but turns out this is reality, not a game. The pursuers approach the tree our young man's sitting behind. He thinks no rule says you gotta blindly follow what's written in the game. Our hero grabs the weapon's handle. The thought of killing someone doesn't bother him at all. The reason for this isn't just that according to the game's plot, these people are his parents' enemies. Seal grips his weapon tight. He knows the enemies are already super close. The guy's ready to join the fight because he's sure he can win. Seal stands in front of his enemies with a dagger in hand. The leader tells his fighters this is the one they're looking for. He orders them to catch this scoundrel right now. His subordinates rush at our young man. Seal leans forward a bit, preparing to meet his enemies. We see a bandit with a sharp nose. He thinks there's a complete idiot in front of him who decided to fight a whole crowd alone. He's definitely done for. Long bangs cover our hero's eyes. He sees the distance to his target is 8.7 meters. Eyes wide open, the guy uses the blink skill. Horror flashes across his opponent's face. He looks in front of him in confusion and makes this weird sound. Seal stares at his enemy with an executioner's gaze. The guy coughs up blood, making another nasty sound again. Blood splatters on our hero's face. The guy grinds his teeth in disgust. We see his hand gripping a dagger. Seal clearly feels the blood flowing down his fingertips, but doesn't feel any guilt. Our young man strikes again. He knows he only kills to survive. Blood's visible on the guy's cheek. He hits another enemy with his elbow. The guy flies into his comrade's arms. The pursuers look in confusion at this enemy who turned out way too strong. Seal starts running again. The villain leader shouts that the guy might escape. He quickly runs through the forest. He hears people yelling behind him that they can't let him get away. Seal, gritting his teeth in anger, thinks he dealt with one enemy, but the next attack might not be so easy. He needs to think of something. We see his eye in close-up. Our young man doesn't get why it's suddenly gotten so quiet. Maybe they stopped chasing him? He notices someone in front of him and realizes his enemies haven't given up their plans. The guy looks to the side. He tries to figure out if his opponents are using magic again. If so, he needs to dodge it. Our hero's foot slips. The guy curses. We see a magician with a glowing staff who's ordered to attack immediately. A white magical formation appears in front of this character. The staff shoots out a powerful wave of yellow energy. Our hero looks at this approaching stream with fear and screams. Large fire spheres are visible behind him. Horror's on our young man's face. He knows a really nasty spell's being used against him. The guy sees a branch breaking through stone. Our hero stretches out his hand. He uses the blink skill. A powerful explosion echoes. We see white clouds of either smoke or fog. The villain leader, smiling, looks ahead and declares the guy got what he deserved for being too arrogant and cocky. We see there's a deep crater not far from this man. The guy looks closer in surprise. The leader realizes our hero isn't there. Seal, meanwhile, flies up to him from above. The villain looks up in alarm. We see the right side of our hero's face. Our young man realizes one of the blink skill's features is that the momentum stays the same during and after use. Our young man uses this skill. He strikes the bandit leader and apparently kills him. A super loud scream echoes. The dead guy's subordinates stand still, staring at the smoke clouds. They don't understand what just happened. Blood gushes from the man's chest. Our hero rushes past him. We see another enemy's terrified face. Our hero stands with a dagger in his hand near the corpse. The guy's hair covers his face. He's breathing hard. The guy sees there are only 2 pursuers left in front of him. We see these characters. One of them's holding a sword. Seal holds out a bloody dagger in front of himself. He knows he's got to finish this real quick before the 2 who are a bit behind come to help their buddies. The enemy with a deep scar on his face says our hero's incredibly weird. He's got absolutely insane reaction speed. The man asks the guy who the hell he is. Seal wipes his chin with the back of his hand. Our hero frowns at his enemy. He thinks his reaction speed really is faster than most pro players, but only when it comes to games. The guy realizes he can't dodge enemy attacks all the time, especially at this close range. He needs to wrap up this fight as soon as possible. Seal rushes at his enemies. One of them puts his sword forward and declares he's already figured out the fighting style our young man uses. Only the blink skill and a dagger. The guy smiles, raises his sword, and thinks that if he protects his face and neck, the dagger won't even scratch him. Seal glares angrily at his enemy. The bastard's ready to meet him with his sword blade. The asshole, grinning with rage, yells at our guy not to hesitate and attack. The man uses the ice wave skill. Our hero, preparing his dagger to strike, uses the blink skill. Some white splashes are visible in front of his enemy. The bandit smiles weirdly. He thinks he's caught our young man and now wants to watch him writhe in pain. We see the man's eye. Seal rushes past his opponent and stabs him right in the neck. In front of us is the back of the villain's head. Grinning, he looks off to the side, apparently at his dead buddy. There's confusion in the villain's eyes. He curses and says that just a little while ago, our hero ran like a rat who'd never fought before. But now everything's changed. Seal, next to whom a corpse is visible, says that's how it used to be. He smiles and thanks his opponent for helping him become a better person. The bandit bares his teeth and calls our guy a little bastard. He says he was caught off guard before, but this time he'll kill him with his own hands. The man starts raising his sword, preparing to strike. Our hero rushes forward. We see a spear in his left hand. The guy strikes. The blade approaches his enemy. His enemy thinks using the blink skill and a frontal attack might be a trick. The guy might be trying to force him to defend against the flying spear while he strikes somewhere on the side with his dagger. The man strikes with his sword and cuts through the spear. He doesn't plan to let his enemy carry out this plan. The villain grinds his teeth from tension. It seems to him he needs to nail our hero while he's behind. The man puts his sword to his right. Judging by the villain's eyes, something unexpected is happening. He grinds his teeth with rage and realizes he's been played. Our hero plunges his dagger into his enemy's heart. In the last seconds of his life, his enemy realizes our guy was trying to attack him from the front from the very beginning. A notification appears. Episode 1. Escape your pursuers is complete. The system window says our hero received experience. The second one says he's been promised an additional reward from the Constellation project for unique plot development. Seal sits tiredly in the snow, breathing hard. Looking down, there's a dagger next to his hand. The guy looks to his left. There's a bloody corpse next to him. Our young man presses his lips together. He finally realizes this isn't a dream. The guy's memory flashes back to events that happened to him pretty recently. The first blink, the first battle, and the first murder. There's major fatigue in our hero's eyes. The guy tells himself he only killed to survive. Seal shakes off his sleeve. He's standing on a rock next to a corpse, thinking about getting out of here. Seal notices something. He turns his head to the corpse lying nearby. The guy looks thoughtfully at the dead man. Our hero searches the dead guy. It's really unpleasant doing this, but he's got no money now, and being practical in this situation seems pretty reasonable. Seal finds a wallet and opens it. Inside is about 2 million credits. That's like 2 grand. The guy thinks it's way better than nothing. Our hero looks tiredly to his right. He realizes his main problem now is the canyon lying in front of him. The guy's standing on a cliff's edge. He realizes he's got to cross the abyss in front of him. Someone loudly asks if anyone's here. Seal listens in surprise. He sees carts and several human figures on the other side of the canyon. Someone's calling our hero from that side. Looking closely, our hero sees a girl shouting at him. He realizes there's a group of mages in front of him who are supposed to appear in the training. The guy raises his hands and shouts that he's here. On the other side, they tell him there's no bridge nearby and ask if he can cross over the stones. Seal replies that he's already on his way. We see a young man in a hood. He turns to his companions and suggests waiting since our hero said he'll cross the canyon. The guy with blue hair tells his buddy that to cross this canyon, you need to be at least a third-class knight, and he sees this really young boy who's unlikely to be capable of this. His buddy's also not sure the guy will cross. Immediately, surprise flashes in his eyes. Our hero starts confidently jumping from stone to stone. The people waiting for him at the abyss's edge watch in amazement at what's happening before their eyes. Seal keeps jumping from stone to stone. The mages watch these jumps and have tons of questions. What is this? Is this some kind of jumping magic? One of them gets what it is and tells his buddies they just witnessed the blink skill being used. In front of us is a girl with blue hair and sad eyes. One of the mages doubts this is blink, since this skill doesn't let you control jump direction and distance. Our hero keeps jumping from stone to stone. The young man who expressed doubts asks how this is even possible. He looks at our hero and cries out in surprise. On the other side of the cliff, 2 of our hero's pursuers appear. The guy seeing all this asks who these 2 are. Were they together with this boy? A drop of sweat runs down the guy's face. He cries out again. In front of us is a mage ready to use his battle spell. A yellow slow beam flies toward our hero. One of the people waiting for him on the other side shouts at the boy to be careful. Seal turns around, cursing. He uses his blink skill. The beam flying toward him seems to fly past. We see Seal's scared, standing on one of the floating stones. He looks at his pursuers anxiously. Our young man tries to figure out if they're from the same squad as the mercenary he killed. If so, this must be dangerous. Our hero seems to be standing unsteadily on the stone. He thinks about how the blink skill has a 3-second cooldown. It's impossible to dodge all this magic with it. Seal knows he's got to find the next floating stone that'll serve as his support. Our hero looks over his right shoulder. Judging by his eyes' expression, he notices something. The mage pulls out his staff and prepares to use another spell. A purple beam flies past our hero, barely missing him. Several hairs cut from our hero's head flutter down. Looks like the stone under his feet is starting to crumble. Seal knows he's about to fall. He stretches his left hand up. Seems like our hero's really falling into the abyss. Seal looks around himself. He knows all the stones are super far from him. He can only hope there's one at the bottom he'll land on. We see horror on our hero's face. He uses the blink skill. Our hero flies down but seems to reach one of the stones, and indeed, his fingers grab the boulder's edge. Seal hangs over the abyss, realizing he managed to survive this time. A yellow energy vortex is visible below him. Our young man thinks he might have been too quick to celebrate. A wave of energy approaches him. Our hero looks at it in fear, knowing he's about to die. We see a powerful stream of blue energy. Behind our hero hanging on the boulder, there's a powerful flash. Large stones fall between him and his pursuers. Still hanging on the stone, Seal looks at his opponents. His face shows obvious confusion. The guy can't understand what kind of magic that was. It looked like an ice spear covered in lightning. Seems like someone used 2 attributes for 1 magic skill. How's that even possible in training? Plus, whoever used this skill accurately calculated the trajectory without spending a drop of mana. We see our hero's surprised eyes. He can't understand who could have pulled off such a miracle. Among the figures of people meeting him on that edge, one stands out. It belongs to the girl with sad eyes we saw a bit earlier. Our hero's pursuers loudly exclaim, "This is simply impossible." They turn around and leave, shouting loudly. In the end, our hero looks down on them. Pulling himself up on the rock a little, he knows he managed to survive this time too. Seal approaches the people waiting for him. The guy looks at the girl's back. She still hasn't turned toward him. Our young man thanks her for her help. The girl, without looking at him, leaves. She says she didn't do it to get any gratitude. Seal says he gets it. Our young man smiles. He thinks this is the nicest voice he's ever heard in his life, but seems like the girl's a real prude. We see a close-up of our hero's eye. The guy thinks about his pursuers. In front of us are vague figures of people waving weapons. Apparently, our guy was being chased by bandits who robbed nearby villages. We see an unpleasant character whose head's covered with a cloak and a skeleton with a scythe behind his back. Our hero knows most of these crimes are committed by a dark demon cult. Seal stands on the cliff's edge and looks at the canyon's other side. He realizes the pursuit ended the moment he entered the mage's territory. The dark demon people are no longer chasing him. Seal looks to his right. He realizes his pursuers had no clue who he really was. The outline of a system window appears in front of our guy. He sees a notification about the start of episode 2, called Enroll in Stella Academy. Our hero looks at the window that popped up in front of him and asks himself if the second episode really started. Looks like it won't be too hard to complete. In front of our hero's eyes, the name of the educational institution, Stella Academy. The guy's face twists with disgust. Seems like he doesn't want to go back to school at this age. A carriage passes by a sharp cliff. We see a hooded man driving it. Our hero's dozing. We see his face in close-up. In front of us is a black stripe surrounded by small white dots. A little boy calls out to his mom. He says when he grows up, he's going to become a magician. The woman smiles. She calls him by name, Seal, and says, everything's going to be just like that. The boy's holding a book in his hands. It's a used magic textbook his dad and mom saved up for ages to buy. The kid reads the book carefully. He promises to study hard and make his parents proud. Mom covers the child who's fallen asleep on the book with a blanket. The woman turns to the doctor. The boy's standing next to her. Mom asks the doctor if her son really has Mana leakage syndrome. The kid's face is sad. He can't believe what he just heard. Our hero guesses this is a memory from the game character named Bal. The boy clutches his shirt with his fists. The kid sobs, wiping away tears with his fists. Our hero realizes these memories are his now. The boy opens his eyes wide. Seems like he just woke up. Our young man grabs his head with his hand. He looks left and seems to notice something. The sun's rising over the mountains. It's morning. The young man sitting across from him greets our hero who just woke up. He says he was just about to wake him anyway. The guy says they'll arrive in Leakage soon, the satellite city of Arcanium. Someone suggests making a pit stop. People get out and start walking next to the vehicle. Our hero stretches after sleeping. He notices someone. It's the girl he talked to earlier. The guy looks at her in surprise. She turns away again. Seal smiles. He thinks the girl's acting super cold toward him. We see our young man's eyes. Seems to him though that everything's going pretty well. He was really worried earlier, but now he likes that the era he ended up in is closer to modern times than the Middle Ages. We see a flying ship. Seal remembers that magic exists in Ether World, but in safe cities there are trains, flying ships, and portals that let you travel long distances safely. Seal looks at the cart next to him. Right now, they're heading to Leakage to board a flying ship. The city's on the way to Arcanium. Before us is this magnificent city. The episode our hero's going through unfolds right here, in the City of Magic. There are famous magic towers, knightly orders of magicians, and 5 renowned. In front of us is this majestic building with an emblem visible under the roof. The academy with the most powerful mages and most outstanding students is Stella Academy. The guy looks into the distance, crossing his arms over his chest. He thinks about how, thanks to all this, Stella Academy's packed with geniuses and nobles from all over the world. He still doesn't get how Sal managed to get into this place. Our hero remembers he hasn't tested his skills yet. In front of us is an info window dedicated to Mana Leakage Syndrome Level 1. Strength increased by 3%. Agility increased by 5%. Sensitivity increased by 10%. Sixth sense activated by user's mental power. Detects mana within 12 meters radius. Detection acceleration automatically activates when dangers detected. Our hero considers this info and realizes, if it weren't for sixth sense and detection acceleration, he'd already be dead. The image from his childhood flashes back, the boy standing next to his mother. A curse trait that prevents him from storing mana in his body, Mana Leakage Syndrome. It's like a birth curse that Seal has. We see the unhappy face of a child, but it was this syndrome that let him detect mana around him using his sixth sense. Plus, the boy could sense any attacks coming, even if he wasn't looking in the direction of whoever was using them. We see arrows flying toward the boy as he runs away. Now he's running from a powerful wave of purple energy. Detection acceleration let our young man perceive what was happening as if time was slowing down. If a threat or attack approached him faster than normal human detection speed, this was a necessary skill for Seal. Since he can't use mana, he can only use his sixth sense for short periods. It takes tons of mental power, so after using it there are pretty serious side effects. Seal looks ahead sadly. He decides to check his stats. The info window appears. Strength, 59%, sensitivity, 97%, agility, 81%, durability, 51%, endurance, 97%, mental power, 43%, mana remaining, 0, experience, 10, skills, blink level 0, traits, Mana Leakage Syndrome, level 1. Our hero knows that for starting stats, this is pretty good. Our hero works with the system window. He thinks the original seal had pretty low sensitivity, but seems like in his case it took away a few percent of the character's stats that were pumped up thanks to the player. We see the stats again. Our hero thinks there isn't just one level in this world. They're calculated here for each step. Skills are presented as levels, and stats as stars. The max you can get is 9 stars, but that number's almost impossible to reach. The guy brings his fist to his mouth. He remembers he's been playing this game for over 10 years, but the highest he's ever achieved is 8 stars in stamina and sensitivity. Now, he needs to invest in sensitivity to develop sixth sense and reaction speed. The guy's finger presses the status window. He realizes he can increase stamina and flexibility through other ways. We see statistical readings of sensitivity, tenacity, and mental strength again. Our hero thinks he's done what he wanted. We see the guy's face close up. He realizes the problem now is Mano leakage syndrome. If he doesn't train the required parameters, he won't last long. He needs to reach the secrets of natural physique as soon as possible. You can strengthen Mano leakage syndrome at Stella Academy. Our hero has a status window in front of him. He knows he's got no other choice but to enroll in Stella Academy. It's the only way he can stop the world's end and cure his syndrome. The guy raises his index finger. He doesn't want to go anywhere anymore and thinks he needs something that could help with this issue. He sees a message saying he has several missed notifications. Our hero's surprised he hasn't seen it before. One of the young men standing next to the cart calls out to our guy, saying it's time to hit the road. He says he's already coming. A girl in a hood passes in front of our hero. He decides he'll check his missed notifications later. A beautiful woman with blue hair looks at the guy kinda sadly. We see a flying ship now. There are several young men in front of us. An announcement sounds that the ship's leaving for Arcanium. Passengers are asked to take their seats for safety reasons. In front of us is a surprised young man's face. 2 guys are smiling and looking at our hero. One of them calls to look at the hick, who's looking around like a lost little kid. The second one figures this guy's never traveled on flying ships before. He must be from some village. His buddy doesn't get why Stella Academy lets some peasants on board their ships. Our guy hears this conversation and turns to whoever's having it. 3 young men dressed in fancy suits look at our young man. One of them says they're talking about the most famous educational institution in the world, and it's tarnishing its reputation with some weird people. Seal looks at these guys with resentment. Our young man sighs heavily and turns away. He thinks kids are always cruel everywhere. One of the guys shouts loudly after him. He demands to know if our hero's sighing heavily in their direction. The young man with a red tie angrily looks after our hero and calls him insolent. He opens his mouth wide and yells at our guy to stop. Suddenly, the young man sees something to his right and turns that way. He asks what the hell's going on and why everyone suddenly started making so much noise. The guy's amazed. In front of us is a girl with this huge red bow around her neck. Someone whispers, "This is Princess Hong Biyam." Our hero hears these words and also turns around. He's pretty surprised he heard this name. In front of us is a blonde with red eyes. Apparently this is the princess of the Adult Pit Kingdom, Tong Biyam Adulpit. The girl walks past the young men. The guy with purple hair puts his hand to his chest and greets Her Highness. She looks at the young man coldly. A drop of sweat runs down his cheek. The girl walks on, and the guy makes some weird sound. Biyam approaches our hero, standing in front of the stairs. The young men she ignored look after her excitedly. Now the blonde walks past our hero. He looks at her, realizing he's seeing this world's main villain. We see 2 girls. Seal knows Biyam's one of this game's main heroines. There are constant disagreements between her and the main character, and in the end, she dies no matter which path you chose. In some endings, she gets brutally killed. In front of us is a girl's corpse. In other cases, she gets bullied by the entire academy, then gets expelled from school. Biyam's standing in front of a desk inside a classroom. In one plot option, the girl goes through something so shameful that she never appears in public again. Biyam covers her face with her hands. Seems like the developers had some personal grudges against her and wanted Biyam to suffer no matter what. Sadness is visible on our hero's face. He heard this girl's really popular among male players. He also finds her attractive. Our guy has this feeling she'll kill him if he talks to her. Seal puts his hand on his stomach. In front of him are stairs. The guy thinks he probably needs to eat. In front of us is a counter with sweets. Our hero's holding a jar in his hands. Seal leaves the place. He thinks everything here's damn expensive and he'll eat as soon as he gets to Arcanium. The guy's standing next to some kind of support. Something's buzzing above his head. Biyam looks out the window. An announcement sounds on the ship that they'll arrive at Arcanium in 10 minutes. We see a girl with blue hair looking at a book. Now we see a sad brown-haired woman. Passengers are invited to go down to the first floor. The young man who tried to mock our hero is sitting in an elegant chair. The announcement that they'll arrive at Arcanium in 10 minutes is repeated. Passengers are again invited to go somewhere. Long bangs cover our hero's face. He knows everything's finally starting. The guy looks thoughtfully ahead. He realizes that either way, this is the reality he's found himself in now. Time to act. Our hero stands with his arms folded across his chest. He sighs tiredly and mentally gives himself props for having passed the test. We see the sad eyes of our guy. He still has doubts about whether he can survive at Stella Academy. In front of us is a dragon bearing its huge mouth. Seal knows the task's way harder. He needs to survive in this world. In front of us are evil people whose eyes are burning menacingly. The guy looks over his shoulder. He'd like to get something to help himself. Seems like some idea pops into his head. He remembers he still hasn't checked the notifications he got. In front of him is a system window telling him the Constellation project is offering him a special reward. 1. Degraded versions of items he used in the game. 2. Degraded versions of skills he got in the game. 3. Experience. Seal thoughtfully rubs his chin. He thinks the system creators do have some kind of business ethics after all, and he needs to think about what to choose. The guy looks at the system window. He thinks he'll probably take Returning Light or Praise of the Flash. The system tells him that according to search results, the level of his selected skills is too high and will be significantly reduced. Our hero thinks he can try Hyperspace Blink. The game responds that the selected skill is an advanced version of the Blink skill and can't be acquired. However, our hero can use the reward to slightly strengthen the Blink skill. Our young man seems to be getting pissed. He mentally asks the system if it's gotta make everything worse. The game tells him that due to lack of narrative power, there's no possibility of full materialization. Seal looks thoughtfully at the system window, trying to understand what all this means. He's told that plot development is driven by narrative power. If our hero keeps exploring unknown plot branches like he did yesterday, it'll accumulate. In front of us are 2 windows in the ceiling of a pretty decent room. Our hero gets that basically, the game can't give him advanced stuff because he's a beginner now. We see our young man's sad face. He remembers an item with a really weird name, bubble glasses. Seal's standing in front of the system window. He hears that after research by the system, they decided to give our hero this item. Here are the glasses in question. Our hero decides they'll work for him at this stage. The guy sadly examines the object that appeared in front of him. He couldn't imagine the day would come when he'd start wearing these glasses. Bubble glasses are an item that stores all the info he's collected in this game. Here's the corresponding system window icon. In Etherworld, it was almost impossible to remember all the data about defeated monsters and knowledge gained, so players developed various items to store information. Seal puts on the glasses. He remembers he did this too. Our young man's eyes widen. Here's the item's info card. Class, missing dot, description. Can't remember what you ate for lunch yesterday? No need to worry anymore because these glasses will save any information you've seen and heard. Special functions, bubble folder, printing note, require mental power to activate. Seal looks at the system window and orders it to open the folder. The game says it's doing just that. Here's another system window. Heroes can view alchemical materials, hunting grounds, dungeons, monsters, and characters. Now we have icons of the listed categories. Seal thinks all this is really good, since he now exists in some version of the real world. Nobody can guarantee he'll be able to earn the necessary resources without problems. The guy stands with his head down sadly. He knows that with these glasses, he can get back at least half of the abilities he once had. We see the right side of our hero's face. He hears someone say the name Aiselle. We see a girl with blue hair holding a book in her hands. Someone calls her the eldest daughter of the Traer Dutchmoff. The girl has a straight-up suffering look. Someone behind her asks how she dares show up here. A second voice whispers she should speak more quietly since she can hear. Seal looks at Aiselle in confusion. He realizes the bubble glasses now let him detect characters he's met before in the game and check their info. The guy's glasses glow blue. In front of us is character info for Aiselle Malf. She's a fake heroine. Ice lightning sorceress. Drinks pickle juice before eating pizza. Eldest daughter of the Duke of Malf. Her father's death led to the family's collapse. Comet. Will die later. Seal looks at the girl passing by in surprise, trying to figure out if she's really the fake heroine. To understand who she is, we need to note one super important detail. Even though our hero's now in a game called Etherworld, it's based on a fantasy novel called Don't Love the Princess. We see an open book. Now in front of us are torn pages. The novel's heroine is Aiselle, who lost her family. She grows up constantly facing schemes from the main villain named Biyam, and eventually gets together with the male protagonist. We see a happy couple. Our hero again has a pretty sad look. He remembers the revenge plan the girl developed doesn't work out, and the male heroes start protecting her. Readers really didn't like this plot twist, so the ending got changed to an unhappy one. The problem is that the game world, built on this novel's foundation, has a totally different plot. Here, a character named Flame appeared who took on the main character role. We see 2 girls standing with their backs to each other. Flame had her own backstory. This woman lived an ordinary life in the modern world, regularly read the book Don't Love the Princess, and then got transferred to the game world. So, unlike the novel, Aiselle became a fake heroine in the game, and Flame took on the role of true heroine. We see our hero's face again. Now we have bloodstains in front of us. Despite persistent efforts by many players, Aiselle couldn't survive any of the plot branches. As a result, she was officially stripped of her true heroine role. Ciel takes off his glasses. He thinks he's got nothing to do with all this. The girl moves away from our hero. We see her long blue hair. Ciel tries to figure out if it seemed like he'd seen her somewhere before. Our young man, looking at the girl, thinks this is probably all just his imagination. The guy knows he's got to prepare himself. In front of us are several buildings and a large fountain between them. Apparently this is Stella Academy. We see students now. We have an elderly speaker in front of us. Folding his hands in front of him, he says the dark demon people are mages who've mastered otherworldly powers and turned into monsters. Even now, these scumbags keep invading the magical world, opening personal gates or freeing ancient dungeons. The old man says the purpose of the mages gathered here is to protect this world from dark forces. Two girls look at each other giggling. One says the old man's speech was super boring. The other completely agrees. Ciel looks sadly ahead. The old man announces they'll now hold the oath-taking ceremony for the 4 students accepted with the highest scores. Also, freshman representatives need to go up on stage. Several students, including a girl with pink hair, are walking up the stairs. We see the faces of young people lined up on the podium. Ciel, looking at them, thinks they're all just shining, and this totally matches their position as main characters. We see our hero's eyes in close-up. He notices the brightest of the students who came up on stage. The elderly teacher announces this is Mayang, the freshman representative. We see the young man in question. We hear students' comments discussing him. He was accepted with the highest scores. Why is he so handsome and smart at the same time? Ciel stares at our young man, thinking this is indeed the famous Mayu. We see this guy with a small magic ball floating above his right hand. Mayu Sang is a character who best fits the phrase, "In heaven and on earth, I alone am honored." His mana status is 9 stars, meaning the guy has potential close to divine. He's a natural genius who can theoretically control all elements of this world. Mayang looks ahead with detachment. Our hero thinks, even if he can't reach the true ending, he should at least try to avoid bad endings. For this, it'd be nice to make this guy his ally. We see our hero's face. Now we see a girl with a bow on the right side of her head. Our young man knows the key factor is flame. Ciel looks somewhere down. He realizes everything here depends on how the girl will behave next. She's from the same reality as himself. It'd be nice to establish contact with her. Of course, everything will be super complicated if she considers him her enemy and refuses. We see the girl's face and profile. Our hero thinks since he has an advantage info-wise, he probably doesn't risk anything. Flame's a product of their fantasy romance novels, and he himself is a product of fantasy romance games. We hear the solemn words of the oath. Our hero raises his right hand. He realizes his importance in this story can't even be compared to the role of an NPC from the village store. A close-up of the character's eye is shown. We see a girl with a magic staff. Ciel remembers the heroine has a special ability to purify dark demon people, plus she has an ability to strengthen those around her. We see our young man's face again. He thinks being near the girl should have a good effect on him. Students and an old teacher are standing on the podium. Ciel thinks his role will probably be supporting the main characters from afar. Plus, he should try not to interact closely with them. The guy looks into the distance thoughtfully. The students, including our hero, applaud. The elderly teacher announces, this is the end of the entrance ceremony. The system window announces, Episode 2, enroll into Stella Academy has ended. In front of us is a magnificent building that looks like a medieval castle. Students are sitting at their desks in the classroom. Our hero's face, as always, is sad. Many years have passed since he graduated from university, and he feels weird being in this atmosphere again. The guy looks to his right. He's holding a watch in his hands. Ciel thinks this is still a pretty nice feeling. We can get a closer look at the object he's holding in his hand. Our hero thinks this thing makes everything better. It's a watch that proves he's a student of the most prestigious magic academy. They allow for way better treatment and service than most warrior mage licenses. Our young man puts it in his pocket. He can't wait to use it. He also really wants to go for a walk. We see the door opening. A stern young man stands behind the podium and orders everyone to take their seats. He announces the exam's about to begin, and students must put away all items except writing supplies. Those wearing glasses must present them for inspection. Ciel looks calmly at the teacher. He thinks it's super weird to take an exam right after the entrance ceremony. We see students sitting at their desks. Apparently, the curriculum at Stella Academy is harder than most Korean universities. Exams are actually taken on the first day of school. It's called the Class Organization Exam, used to decide class distribution. The stern young teacher orders students to begin taking the exam. In front of our hero lies a piece of paper with some text. Beads of sweat are running down the guy's cheek. He's got no clue what's written in this document. In front of us is a blonde woman writing on paper. Apparently, the class placement exam isn't related to the entrance exam, which is known for its insane difficulty. It's needed to sort students into classes F, A, and S. We see a girl whose face seems familiar. Seal knows most of the game characters are obviously supposed to be in Class S. On the other hand, Baal, who entered the academy with the worst result out of 1,141 students, can consider himself automatically enrolled in Class F. The guy has a pencil in his hand. He thinks he's already been accepted and won't jump above his head. Maybe he should just hand in a blank page, or is there a chance he'll get expelled from the academy after this? Our hero looks at someone. Sang is sitting at a desk with a bored look. He rests his chin on his palm. Our hero glances at him and realizes he's already exactly the same as he remembers. We see a sheet of paper written from beginning to end. Seal notices the exam sheet is already completely filled. Our hero sighs heavily. Now he gets why Sang always looks so bored. The characteristic feature of this character in the game was boredom. A bright halo is visible behind the guy. Sang was born into the strongest family in the world, and since he's got the most genius brain, everything comes incredibly easy to him. That's why, depending on how the main character behaves, this character becomes either evil or kind. Seal looks ahead with detachment. We see an unknown character who smiles ominously. Our hero knows Sang must be of interest to dark demon people, who do everything to harm ordinary folks. Our hero looks at the blonde young man and thinks his biggest problem is his family. In front of us is the exam sheet again. Our hero looks at it and knows that looking at geniuses, he involuntarily compares himself to them. Judging by his face's expression, an idea comes to the boy. He realizes he can try using the bubble glasses in this case too. As a player, he used them super often to gain additional skills in the library. The boy takes the glasses out of his jacket's inside pocket. He thinks he's got nothing to lose, so he might as well just try. The young teacher standing next to our hero asks him with displeasure what kind of glasses he took out. The teacher looks sternly at the student. He reminds him that at the very beginning, he warned about the need to check glasses beforehand. Seal remembers he really did say that. The teacher takes the glasses and says he'll check them. He frowns and examines the object in his hands. Seal looks at the teacher anxiously. He knows if the teacher finds any magic, he could get expelled from the academy. The boy looks up with worry. He hears a system message that the missing part of the bubble glasses has been found. Our hero's offered to either take it or refuse. Seal's horrified. He begs the system to do nothing and shut up. The teacher keeps examining the glasses. He states he doesn't feel any mana coming from them. The teacher tells our hero to declare in advance that he's going to use such objects next time. Seal, smiling, takes the glasses and says he'll definitely do so. He knows if the glasses had all the original functions, he'd be in huge trouble. Seal puts on the glasses. He looks at the exam sheet. The guy realizes now he can see all the correct answers. This is like hitting the jackpot. Our young man quickly writes while thinking about what'll happen if he takes first place in this exam. In this case, he might not end up in Class F, but maybe Class A. Seal, smiling happily, keeps writing. The teacher sternly says the exam's over and asks them to hand in the sheets. Our hero looks at him in surprise. Seal jumps up from his seat. Paper pages fly around him. The young teacher stands with his arms folded across his chest. Our hero realizes he only answered 3 questions. The teacher frowns as he examines the collected papers. Surprise appears on his face. Seal takes off his glasses. He thought he could avoid being sent to Class F, but apparently that would have been too good for him. Surprise appears on our young man's face. The teacher shouts loudly for our hero to hand him the glasses again. Seal, not believing his ears, asks again in surprise. The teacher rubs his chin, examining the suspicious object. He declares this simply cannot be. The teacher tells one of the students to immediately run for Dr. Gran. The student replies, he'll do it right away. Seal stands with his mouth open in surprise. He doesn't get what aroused the teacher's suspicion. He deliberately wrote out his train of thought to eliminate any suspicion. Is he really gonna get exposed now? We see an open door. Someone asks the doctor what he's thinking. An elderly man with a beard looks at the glasses in surprise. Apparently, this is Professor of Magic Engineering, Dr. Gran. Our hero stands next to 2 teachers. Dr. Gran says the fact that the student answered this question is definitely suspicious. The young teacher asks if the boy cheated. His colleague says he doesn't see any signs of cheating. He doesn't feel magical energy from the glasses or any other items belonging to the young man. Dr. Gran says Seal definitely solved the problem on his own. The boy stands with a completely innocent expression on his face. The old man puts his hand on our hero's shoulder, chuckling. He says this is simply amazing since he didn't expect to see something like this in his lifetime. He says Professor Lehan Wall should apologize to the student and then start teaching him the best way possible. The young teacher says he understands. His colleague Lehan Wall looks down guiltily and apologizes for the misunderstanding. Seal narrows his eyes and smiles. He says he accepts the apology and hopes it won't happen again. In his mind, he thinks he really did cheat and was super lucky he didn't get caught. If the original functions of the glasses were still working, he would have been in huge trouble. In front of us are the academy buildings. In front of the door, there's a sign stating this is Professor Lehan Wall's office. A young man and middle-aged woman are looking at exam papers handed in by students. One of the answers is circled in red ink. Lehan Wall looks at the exam paper thoughtfully. The woman calls out to the professor. He looks up. A colleague approaches the professor. She asks if these are really the exam papers of this year's freshmen. Lehan Wall Wall replies they are. The woman folds her hands in front of her. She heard there are especially many interesting freshmen this year. Apparently in front of us is a member of Stella Academy's Council of Elders, Professor Adel Tamman. The guy looks at her carefully and says it's obviously yes. In front of us is a girl with many red roses. Lehan Wall says one of the outstanding first-year students is Hong Biyam, Princess of Adulpit from the Kingdom of Flame. She represents the most famous family that specializes in fire magic. The next student worth mentioning is the Prince of the Scalan Empire, who received this title at age 12, solely due to his magical abilities. His name is Jeremy Scalan, and he surpassed all his older brothers in the fight for the throne. There's also the successor of the Magic Tower Master, Wang Gang, who represents the greatest full moon tower in the world. Professor Edelman puts her hand to her mouth. She heard composing questions for elite students from famous families was super difficult. She has no doubt there were many interesting questions this year. Lehan Wall looks at the exam paper. He says he's glad the woman liked the questions he wrote. We see the professor's eyes. He looks at one of the completed forms. This year, as Professor Edelman noted, 3 new types of questions were asked that were super difficult for students who studied the usual way. All of them had a hidden agenda. We see a student holding his head. First, it was a test of mental flexibility. Students could see they wouldn't be able to answer these questions in the allotted time and quickly move on to easier tasks. Second, they had to show how they were going to cope with answers to questions they'd never seen in any school textbook. Lehan Wall looks at the exam papers. He thinks the era of magic where rote memorization and theory prevailed is over. The age of using quick judgment and creative thinking has arrived. The teacher looks at the suspicious exam paper. He thinks, nevertheless, these 3 questions should have remained unanswered. And indeed, more than 1,000 out of 1,141 students didn't even attempt to answer them. We see a form with red marks. Lehan Wall thinks that out of about 100 students who attempted to answer these questions, the vast majority couldn't give a single correct answer. We see the teacher's profile. He thinks only 3 students answered all 3 questions correctly. In front of us is a boy and a girl. One of those who gave 3 correct answers was Mayang, the talent of the century who appeared like a meteor. However, his origin remains unknown. The second to excel was Flame, who entered the school on the director's recommendation despite being a commoner. We see our hero with glasses in his hands. Lehan Wall thinks Bao was the third. The teacher keeps looking at the exam sheet. He thinks Mayang and Flame were initially considered geniuses, but Seal had the lowest score among all those admitted. Nobody thought he'd be able to answer all 3 questions, especially considering he couldn't solve any of the other problems. Professor Edel Tamman looks at her colleague thoughtfully. She says she was curious why he was so interested in the answers given by first-year students, but now she realizes there's a student among them whose answers do look suspicious. A smile appears on the woman's face. She states, "There's some logic to this. It's impossible to answer these questions using formulas and equations, but it can be done without knowing anything at all." Lehan Wall thoughtfully asks if this guy could be a genius. Professor Adel Tamman spreads her arms out to the sides and states it could also be an incredible coincidence. Lehan Wall frowns at his colleague. He sighs heavily. The man examines our hero's personal file. He pays attention to a separate sheet of paper in the folder. It says our young man received special clearance since his ability to control the blink skill is truly extraordinary. Lehan Wall frowns and looks to his left. He can't figure out if this is enough for the principal to write the student a personal invitation to study at the academy. Now we see a photo of our hero. Lehan Wall remembers this is a student studying to be a battle mage specializing in the blink skill. Well, everything will fall into place soon. Then they'll understand whether this was a coincidence or if he's really special. In front of us are 3 female students. We see our hero standing behind another student. Students are animatedly discussing the class assignment lists. This is really interesting to everyone present. One of the students says he won't be allowed to go home if he's not assigned to Class A. Seal looks down. He can't believe he has to personally check which class he was assigned to. In the game, this could be done with just 1 mouse click. Students are standing in front of the lists. We see one of them's surprised face. Now we see our hero's face. He hears someone say his name behind him. One of the students looks at our young man with a dark expression. We hear students' comments about our hero. Someone heard he got a 0 on the entrance test in the magic application section. Another one doesn't believe such a person can get into Stella Academy. A third one expresses doubts about the school's standards. We see our hero's legs. He thinks he'll just find out what class he got into and leave, and he doesn't care what anyone says. The lists of classes E and F are displayed on the wall. Seal looks at them, trying to find his name. He's not on the lists of classes F1 and F2. The worst thoughts flash through our young man's head. It's simply impossible that he was expelled because he only answered 3 questions. This actually means he'll die very soon. Seal listens to voices around him again. Someone indignantly asks what the hell our hero's name is doing here. The speaker states this must be some kind of mistake because it's completely wrong. Our hero looks at students standing in front of the notice board. One mentions a certain Yusel from Marquis Czech Balin, who took 29th place and got into Class B. A second mentions a certain Kyle who was 17th in rankings but got into Class A. having passed the theory part with flying colors. So why did some upstart get into this class? We see a close-up of our hero's face. He can't understand what's happening. Something's wrong here, and he needs to check what exactly. Seal looks up. His eyes widen in surprise. He realizes he got into Class S. Beads of sweat are running down our hero's cheek. He can't understand why this particular letter is written next to his name. Judging by his face's expression, the guy's shocked. He knows this simply can't be true. In front of us is a magnificent monogram. All students at the academy dream of getting into Class S. This is where the most special students of the best magic school in the world, Stella Academy, gather. Class S is different from the others in that it's the only one in the stream. There are only 41 students in it. Our hero thoughtfully rubs the back of his head. He still thinks this is some kind of mistake. Moreover, in Class S, he'll very often encounter the main characters. Communication with the main character will certainly shorten his already super short life. Seal looks down sadly. He knows he can't even change classes. The upset guy turns around and leaves. He knows now he'll just have to try his best while trying not to show himself to anyone. We see the academy building again. A woman in a blue dress is hitting a girl with pink hair. Apparently, this is Professor Hongil of the Fire Elements from the Elements class. She asks why the girl got 3 questions wrong. Even Princess Aiselle of the Fallen Duchy of Mulf got 2 questions right. Biyam sits on the floor. Hongil yells she couldn't get the questions, even those insects answered right, which means she's lower than an insect. The girl should think of herself as a bug and do it again. The woman asks if the girl understands. Looking down sadly, the girl replies she understands. The woman looks at her daughter standing above her. She asks her to listen to her. Hongil states her daughter can't allow herself to become like her. She was kicked out of the kingdom and is holding on to some stupid professorship. Biyam can't become a disgrace to the kingdom like her. The woman leans over her daughter. She takes her head in her hands and tells her to become better than her sister. The woman smiles. She asks if her daughter understands what she means. The girl looks forward. We see the mark of the blow on her cheek. Biyam tells her mother she understands everything. The girl's sitting on the floor. She doesn't really understand anything. She's just living her life and solving problems the way she was taught. Ofting. Problems made up of magic she hasn't learned. Spells and formulas she hasn't memorized. We see the girl's mouth. She asks why. There's despair in her eyes. Biyam asks why her mother is tormenting her. We see the sign for Class S. Students are sitting at their desks. Our hero holds his head and thinks he's screwed up. He's been assigned to a place full of antisocial weirdos. It's not like he's gonna hang out with high schoolers. We see our young man's eyes. He hears his neighbors talking about him. Someone asks how he got there. A second voice says he can't understand it either. 2 young men are whispering. One states the parents of students protested and asked the school administration why Seal would be in Class S. They were only told the boy had the necessary skills to be in Class S. The second young man replies, it makes no sense. Our hero sits with his hands folded in front of him. He realizes he's become an outcast in this group. On the other hand, his classmates have tried hard since childhood, so in their place, he'd also be upset if some idiot ended up in the same class with them. Seal stretches. He thinks about how the class changes depending on performance after each test, so everything's normal. Class S is no exception in this regard. We see our young man's eye. He thinks, of course, transferring from class to class on this principle happens super rarely, but now that he thinks about it, there's a guy here who'll later transfer from Class S to Class C. Seal looks to his left. He thinks he'll find out about this later. We see 3 students talking to each other, another one sitting at a desk looking down. Our hero thinks this is still pretty amazing. He couldn't imagine he'd be in the same classroom with characters from the game he once played. In a few years, most students in this class will become famous all over the world. Students are sitting at desks in the classroom. Our hero thinks about 5 of them also have the opportunity to betray the magical world, and Mayang is one of them. We see the profile of the character we're looking for. Our hero looks at the young man with some doubt. The girl looks thoughtfully ahead, resting her chin on her hand. Our hero thinks it'd be great if Flame could prevent this from happening. Lihan Wall enters the classroom. He demands everyone calm down. Our hero looks at him in amazement. Lihan Wall leans his hands on the podium. He says he's pleased to meet everyone. He's sure some of them have seen him before, but still wants to introduce himself formally. A young man looks at students with a frown and states he's Professor Lihan Wall of Class S. We see 2 young men. One states he's the famous Professor Lihan Wall. The other replies, the number of dark demon creatures he's hunted has almost reached 4 digits. He's called a 7th class magic warrior, but in reality, he's on a completely different level. Lihan Wall, standing at the podium, again calls for students to calm down. The professor looks at the assembled students. He states there seem to be many talented students here, and there's also one completely unique student. Our hero looks at the teacher in surprise. He stands at the podium. He says, as everyone knows, this is the academy that trains combat magicians. Once they become magic warriors, students will receive strict education for 3 years. In front of us are 2 girls with blue hair. Lihan Wall states he doesn't expect everyone to follow suit, but he'd like everyone to show their best side during this time. The man looks at students and asks if they have any questions. The students he sees at their desks are silent. The professor says in that case, he'll start the lesson. A girl enters the classroom door. Looks like it's Biyam. Our heroes look at her in surprise. He can't believe Biyam, who follows rules more than anyone else, is late. Biyam approaches the teacher. We see the girl's face. Our hero guesses something happened to her. He puts on his glasses to check his guess with their help. In front of us is an info window dedicated to Biyam Adulpit. Apparently, she's a villain. Fire mage, loves red Genong candies, sometimes gets burned, drinks only espresso brewed in the Alali style, has an evil mother, and her death is guaranteed. We see our hero's eyes. He thinks this isn't it. The guy rubs his chin and replays the words in his head about the girl's death being guaranteed. Lahan Wall frowns at the girl. Our hero thinks that if Aiselle dies because of flame, then Biyam will die because of both flame and Aiselle. We see the girl's profile. Our hero thinks this is the inevitable fate of the villain. He'd like to save her if he could, but he's not in a position to help anyone else right now. Seal takes off his glasses. Lahan Wall tells the girl she should go sit in her seat. Our hero, holding the glasses, sighs heavily. He feels awkward, but he can only keep his distance now. The boy seems to notice something. Biyam's standing next to him. The girl's looking at him. A bead of sweat runs down our hero's cheek. He doesn't quite get what's happening. The girl puts her hand on the desk. She sits down next to our hero. The boy's eyes widen. He knows everything's been going wrong from the start. Lahan Wall stands with his arms crossed over his chest. He says before the lesson starts, they'll have a staff changeover procedure for the staff students will use in school. Class S and Class A will have their staff changeover at the same time. Our hero's face shows surprise. He thinks about the staff handover ceremony. It irritates him a little. Seal smiles. He realizes, though, that he's looking forward to it. We see the Academy's emblem. Stella Academy has two important events planned. One is the familiar contract signing ceremony, and the other is the staff receiving ceremony. We see a blonde woman stretching her arms up. Now we see a young man holding a magic wand. As with the elite that is Stella Academy, the staff changeover ceremony it holds is just as special. Lahan Wall stands in front of students. He asks if all students have gathered. The teacher stretches out his left hand to the side. He states the staffs from lower to middle class are prepared here. All students have to do is walk up to the staff they like and take it. Our hero's face shows surprise. Lahan Wall says the process of replacing the staff after choosing it is super difficult, so he hopes students will choose carefully. Seal looks at the teacher in surprise. He thinks that despite what the teacher says, it's not the student who chooses the staff here, but the other way around. In Ether World, staffs only respond to the person they deem worthy of commanding them, and this causes a resonance effect. In front of us is a guy with an elegant staff hovering next to him. Basically, this means staffs here can't be used just because someone wants to. Our hero walks forward. Seal approaches the staffs. He wonders which one to choose. Our hero looks thoughtfully at the mage tools. If things were like before, he would have chosen a staff intended for F class, but now that he's moved up to S class, he needs to think carefully. The staff that best suits his position is the magic wand. We see one such item lying on a stand. Staffs are usually divided into two classes, short-shaped rods and long-shaped staves. Rods are usually wielded by knights who quickly destroy magic. Before us is one such fight. Now we see a girl in a hood. On the other hand, the staff is used by bishops who focus on a single blow with longer spell time. Seal listens. One of the students asks his friend which staff he thinks our hero will choose. He says since Seal is an S-class student, he shouldn't have any problems creating a resonance effect. Our hero looks around at the chatting students. There are sounds near one of the students. Our hero looks ahead a little sadly. He doesn't care what others think of him. Someone greets our young man. We see the right side of our hero's face. One of the students approaches him. Seal asks who he's dealing with. The guy who approached looks at our hero. He introduces himself as Aiselle. Seal doesn't get who this guy is. This is the first time he's heard this name. Our hero looks at the student with confusion and says everything's clear to him, asking the guy to explain what he wants. Folding his arms over his chest, the guy asks which staff our hero wants to take. Seal replies it's any. A mocking smile appears on Aiselle's face. He states, our hero should choose a staff that suits his status as a commoner. The insolent man says Seal shouldn't make a fuss and cause trouble for the professors. Our hero silently looks at the jerk. He turns to him and states he shouldn't cause any trouble either. The student's face twists with anger. He opens his mouth wide and calls our hero a bastard. Aiselle asks if Seal wants to fight. He sighs heavily. This guy really irritates our hero. Glasses appear in the guy's hands. We see the student's face twisted with anger. An info window appears. Apparently this is Aiselle Chekbalin, son of Marquis Chekbalin, subordinate of Prince Jeremy, third-class hooligan. Our hero hides the glasses in his jacket's inside pocket. Seems to him there's still not enough info about this character. He wonders how special he is. Aiselle, staring at our hero, gets super angry. He points his finger to the side and states he's gonna choose this one, so our hero should be careful. Seal looks where the student pointed and sees a staff there. He realizes it's the Edmer Adamir. In front of us is an item with such a weird name. Seal stands there with a thoughtful expression. He knows this weapon should be the highest class. A mid-high class staff is usually used by professional magic warriors. In front of us is one such fighter. On the other hand, no matter how talented a person is, training on mid-low class staff should be the limit for students. Seal stands there with a thoughtful expression. He thinks about how even professional magic warriors have a hard time handling mid-low class staffs. We see a staff with bright white glow spreading around it. Our hero realizes there's another mid-high class staff here, besides the Edmer Adamir. He's not here to be chosen, but rather to show off. Lahan Wall declares each student must stand in front of the staff they like. We see one of the students. He raises his left hand. The same thing happens to a blonde man with red eyes. Now we see a girl in front of us holding a staff. There's a powerful flash next to our hero. In front of us is a guy and a girl. Our young man shouts in surprise that whoever chose had an amen, and it's a middle-class staff. The girl notices Prince Skalin also chose a middle-class staff. Yusul and Seal are standing next to each other. They hear Princess Hong Biyam chose Su or La Havan, also a middle-class staff. One of the students asks in amazement how students can choose middle-class staffs that only professional magicians can wield. There's clearly some madness happening this year. Yusul, grinding his teeth in anger, curses. He runs away from our hero and asks someone to wait because he can do the same. Students look at the young man running past them in surprise. Someone recognizes him and calls him by name. Another student asks if this guy's really trying to cause a resonance in the mid-high class staff. Yusul stands in front of the staff smiling. He holds out his hand and calls everyone to watch carefully what's about to happen. He promises to show what a real S-class talent looks like. We see a close-up of our young man's hand. There's a powerful flash. Our hero raises his right hand to protect his eyes from the bright light. He realizes, as expected, there was no resonance. Yusul's lying face down on the floor. He raises his head and groans heavily. We see three students. One of the girls screams that Usul's badly hurt. Our young man asks for the professor to be called quickly. Someone remarks it's most likely impossible to choose a mid-high class staff. Seal sighs tiredly. He knows it would have been better for the guy to just give up. There's someone's shoe in front of us. Our young man's walking forward. Someone asks him to stop. There's a smile on the guy's face. Our hero thinks the owner of this staff has already been determined. We see the satisfied face of our young man, in front of whom the staff hangs in the air. Students look at the guy. One says, "This is Mayang." Another asks if he's really trying to take this staff. There's doubt that even he can cope with Adamir. Mayang, however, reaches out for the magician's weapon. The staff appears in his palm. A powerful flash occurs around our young man. Students cover their eyes so as not to be blinded. Seal watches what's happening with one eye. There's a satisfied smile on Mayang's face. Our young man examines the staff he just received. Students look at him in amazement. Someone shouts, "This can't be happening. A freshman was able to pick up a mid-high class staff. This seems impossible." Seal sighs quietly. On the contrary, he thinks all of this was expected. Mayang looks at the instrument with a smile. Our hero thinks now, many more people will know how talented he is. Mayang looks to his right. Our hero looks back at him with a slightly frightened look. Our young man smiles. Seal narrows his eyes angrily. He doesn't get what's going on here. Seems like Mayang's gone crazy. In any case, flame on another mid-high class staff called Teravan. Above our hero's head, a girl is visible whom he remembers. However, here the route forks. He remembers the girl holding the staff. If Flame can obtain Edmer Adamir, Mayang will be interested in her because of her genius. In front of us is a boy and girl who look sad. This will open the way for Mayang, but if she takes the other staff, it'll open up a completely different path. Our hero needs to use Flame to attract Mayang to his side. Our hero looks ahead with a sad expression. Flame walks past him to the staff hanging in the air. She says she thinks she found what she needs. We see the girl's face. Now we see the staff. Our hero thinks she's going specifically to Teravan. Seal looks at the girl expectantly. He tries to figure out what she'll do. Flame approaches the staff. There's a slightly detached expression on her face. Our hero looks at her as if he wants to hypnotize her. He mentally tells her to take Teravan, and then Mayang will be interested in her. The girl stands right in front of the staff. Heroes realize if she takes it, they'll all have a better chance of a happy ending. However, Flame walks past this tool. Seal hums in confusion. Flame looks away from the staff. Our hero realizes she doesn't seem interested in Teravan at all. He can't understand what's going on. Doesn't she know about this staff? Seal looks at the girl with his mouth open. He figures she doesn't have enough info either way. It's bad. We see the girl's profile. Our hero thinks Flame should have the ability to resonate with any staff because she's the main character of the game. What'll happen if she chooses some weird staff? Seal grinds his teeth in anger. He knows in this case, they can lose other good continuations of the plot. Our young man leans forward a little. He realizes at this point he's got no choice but to push the girl toward the staff he needs. Our young man looks at the girl. In front of us is Flame's back. Seal uses his blink skill. The guy ends up right behind the girl. She looks up somewhere. Flame turns to our hero in confusion. She can't understand when he managed to get here. Our young man giggles fakely. Seal and Flame stand next to each other. The boy says he just wanted to know which staff she'd choose. The girl asks why he wants to know. Our hero replies he just wanted to help because Flame seemed a bit confused. The girl says with displeasure it's none of his business. She turns away, says goodbye, and walks away. Seal tries to stop her. Our hero scratches his cheek. He thinks something's clearly wrong here. Flame should be friendly with everyone because she's a super sociable person. We see his memories of her smiling and talking to 2 other students. Our hero doesn't get why she's so cold right now. However, he can't give up so easily. His life depends on it. Seal yells after Flame and asks her to stop. The girl looks back. Our young man looks at her and says he just wants to help her choose a staff. Flame indignantly tells him to mind his own business. Seal says there's a staff here he thinks suits the girl perfectly. It's clear from Flame's face that she's angry. The girl yells at our hero, asking what the hell he even knows about staffs. Seal doesn't understand what he did wrong. Doesn't she care about extra services? The guy fakes a smile and says he's heard a lot about Flame. He extends his hand to his left and asks the girl if she wants to take that staff. In front of us is the magical instrument in question. The girl asks if our young man's talking about Teravan. He smiles and replies he's talking about this exact staff. Seal looks to his left, wide-eyed with surprise. He hears some weird noise and asks what it could be. Our young man's eyes widen in surprise. Now Seal squints a little. He says it scared him. We see the hand holding the staff. Our hero realizes it's his hand. He widens his eyes in surprise again. The guy doesn't understand what the hell is happening. Why did this tool end up in his hand? He looks at Teravan with wild eyes. The guy knows Flame should have taken it. Seal curses. Then a smile finally appears on his face. The girl stands sadly behind him. Our hero turns to her. Flame seems to be smiling. The question sounds, why? Our hero, with beads of sweat rolling down his cheeks, says nothing happened. He himself knows he screwed up badly, just incredibly badly. 2 girls pass by the academy building. We see another one whose figure seems familiar. One of the students is trying to share news with his buddies. The guy standing in front of her says this year, 2 students managed to take and cause resonance in mid-high class staffs. The other student can't believe this is true. Historically, there have only been 5 people who managed to take them, so now there are 2 more at once. The guys keep talking. The first says, oddly enough, one of the students only used the blink skill during the magic manifestation exam. The second asks how this is possible since blink is basic magic. His parents said blink is extremely lousy magic. Maybe something went wrong. The girl silently looks ahead. In front of us is the self-study hall. The girl walks down the corridor. She says it's finally gotten a little quieter. She thinks the news she just heard is being discussed everywhere within the academy's walls. The rumor that 2 first-year students had obtained mid-high class staffs spread instantly, but she just can't understand it. We see our hero holding a staff in his hand. The girl looks at the guy in surprise and realizes this can't be true. Our young man grabbed Teravan. Who is he? Seal looks at the staff in his hand with anger. The girl had read the original novel 3 times before coming here, but the character BQ Seal never appeared in it. It said no one can just grab Teravan. How did he manage to resonate with it so easily? The girl curls her lips. She gets the impression the guy was trying to show off in front of her. Our young man smiles, placing the staff on his shoulder. The girl adjusts her hair behind her ear. She realizes there's no point thinking about all this now. Someone from behind says her name, Flame. A pretty blonde approaches, accompanied by 2 other girls. She asks Flame if she's also going to study on her own. Flame looks over her shoulder at her. A satisfied smile appears on her face. Flame turns to the students smiling and calls them children, asking if they think they're dealing with some kind of nerd. The blonde girl replies she doesn't think anything of the sort, but Flame always says she has nothing better to do when she goes off to study. Flame says this isn't true. One of the girls asks why Flame always calls them children since they're the same age. She replies it's just a habit. Where she lived, she was always treated like an older girl. Flame smiles. She realizes she's in a present-day novel, so she can't act like a child. She's asked if she's also going to study on her own today. Flame looks at the students with wide eyes. We see a girl with red hair. Flame seems to recognize her. She seems to be Jackie, but why is her style so similar to her own? Flame holds up her left hand's fingers and tells the girls she won't be studying alone. There'll be an extra meeting soon, so she'll go to it. She says she has to go. One of the girls suggests they go to a cafe together next time. Flame waves and leaves. She walks down the academy hallway. Her eyes are half closed. She thinks she's no match for girls her age. Flame realizes, at her current age, it's hard to pretend to be a student. Someone's standing around the corner. There's a collision. Flame holds her bruised forehead. Her name is called. The girl looks at the person standing in front of her in surprise. It's a tall guy with blue eyes. Flame realizes it's He Wang in front of her. The guy asks if everything's okay with the girl. She replies everything's fine. Our young man looks at Flame silently. The guy and girl are standing next to each other. He Wang says Flame doesn't have a very good expression on her face. Maybe something happened? The girl looks at our young man with wide eyes in surprise. She doesn't understand why he's worried about her. Out loud, she says nothing happened to her. He Wang, with his arms at his sides, asks if Flame's going to self-study. She in turn asks if the guy's going to the exclusive S-class training hall again. Our young man looks down at Flame and says, "You can't be lazy when it comes to daily training." The girl says he's being too sincere. Hee-Wang replies she shouldn't say that. Flame asks again, puzzled. We see our young man's face. Now we see the left side of the girl's face. The guy smiles. He extends his hand to the girl. Smiling at Flame, our young man promises to see her later. The girl looks after him with wide eyes of surprise. She turns and leaves, thinking the guy was too rude. Judging by her wide eyes, Flame notices something. Someone's peeking around the corner. Seems we saw this girl a little earlier. Flame greets her with a hand gesture. She doesn't understand why Jackie's still here. The girl watching her from around the corner takes off and runs away. Flame looks after her, a little surprised. She thinks now's not the time to think about it. In front of us is the sign for the self-study room. Flame looks up. She realizes she's come for a special extra meeting. According to the original novel, Aiselle and Biyam will be here. We see the 3 students we already know. Flame thinks it'll be interesting to see the confrontation between the main character and villain from a romantic fantasy. The door opens. Flame's holding a book in her hands. In front of us are 2 guys and now a girl with flowers behind her ear. Flame walks through the room. She thinks all the main characters are here. The girl looks up, trying to make sure all this is really true. Behind the podium is a young man with blue hair. Flame recognizes him. It's Kyle from Class A. He looks a little stunned. Flame looks at the book lying on the table. The girl thinks this is an extra meeting for students who need to improve their grades. Considering the event involves famous students from Class S, this seems obvious. We see Flame's face in close-up. Now we see 2 young men. The girl realizes Mayu Sang himself has come here. This man, who can be considered the main guy of this world, has attracted Beale's attention. The girl watches the boys from the back row. She realizes this is definitely not a coincidence. Seal hasn't solved anything, except for the 3 hellish questions. There's a fist on the desk. Flame suggests maybe Seal knew from the beginning that if he answered these questions, he'd get into Class S. Our hero, with a drop of sweat running down his cheek, smiles. In front of us is the lower part of the girl's face. This is Flame. She thinks if Beale really knew everything in advance and acted like this, then he's super dangerous. Our hero's sitting at the desk, putting his hands on it. Our young man sighs heavily. He tries not to look at Mayang, who's sitting next to him. Seal dreams of someone taking him away from his hands. Mayang, smiling, asks our hero why he came here. He doesn't need to listen to such things, or is there some special reason? Seal smiles with effort. He states he doesn't have any special reason. He was simply told to participate in this event because his grades are bad. We see our hero's eyes. He can't understand why the young man sitting next to him is so interested in him. Mayang looks at our hero with some kind of love. The guys are called to be silent. Seal and Mayang look at the one who did this in surprise. Our young man standing at the podium states today they'll review the problems of the entrance exam. As everyone present knows, there were super difficult questions, which were later nicknamed the 3 hellish questions. In front of us is Biyam. Kyle, standing at the podium, states he managed to answer one of these questions. The guy, cursing, is perplexed why people like Seal are here. After all, he planned to expand his influence in society by teaching stupid noble bastards. We see the speaker's right eye. Our hero's looking at him calmly from his seat. Kyle thinks this is his chance. He heard this Beale got the lowest score on the entrance exam. He decides to show he's better than our hero at something. Standing at the board, the guy declares he'll show how he answered the question. Kyle writes something on the board. He declares this task is essentially a trap. It tries to make a person make a mistake. One of the students diligently writes down what Kyle says. Mayang, smiling, looks at our hero. He asks if our hero thinks Kyle is right. Seal's holding a pencil in his hand. Mayang, squinting, looks at him. Seal looks at his neighbor in the audience in confusion. He can't understand what the hell he's talking about. Is Kyle right? First of all, Seal doesn't even understand what he's trying to do. And what are these 3 hellish questions? Our hero looks thoughtfully ahead. He decides he just needs to be honest. Seal tells his neighbor he has no idea if Kyle is right. The guy who was just called by name is holding a piece of chalk. Students behind him whisper. One says it's Beale. Someone asks if Kyle is really doing everything wrong. The named character grinds his teeth in anger. Standing at the board, he doesn't understand why everyone's looking at him like that. Our hero shakes his head in surprise. The chalk breaks in his hand. Kyle asks loudly what he's doing wrong. Our hero looks at him in amazement. Kyle calls out to our hero, smiling evilly. He looks up and asks why the guy doesn't come down here and solve the problem himself. Seal looks at our young man a little scared. He starts to panic. The guy doesn't understand what the hell's going on. Seal stares at Kyle. Mayang gives him a thumbs up, smiling. He encourages our hero, saying he can handle it and Kyle did it on purpose. Seal goes down the stairs. He decided to just get it over with. Flame looks down at him. Biyam also glances at our young man. Seal and Kyle are standing in front of the board. Our hero puts on his glasses. He's determined to figure out the hellish questions. Seal looks closely at what's written on the board. He realizes it's something between a pun and a quiz. In front of us is a magician raising his staff. We see a condition of the problem. The magician cast a spell. Dear Earth, shed tears, and the dirt became twice as much as before. Why did this happen? The answer's simple. Our hero smiles. He says if the dirt cries, it's in a state of composting. Seal holds his head with his hand. It seems ridiculous to him too, but it really is such a riddle. He wonders who came up with it. Seal looks at the board through his glasses. Kyle looks closely at our hero. He thinks Kyle solved the riddle as if it were some kind of math problem and talked about how the soil splits when it cries or something like that. Seal keeps staring at the board. He thinks the method Kyle used was wrong, but the guy managed to get the right answer due to luck. However, he would have solved another problem like this incorrectly. Our hero turns to our young man with blue hair and says he can't show him the correct solution, but he can tell him where he's wrong. Kyle asks again, puzzled. Seal states the problem was about Earth, but what if it was water or wind? Would the proposed method work in those cases? Kyle looks at our hero in amazement. He states in that case, he'll use a different method. Our hero objects, stating then his buddy will have to do everything differently. Kyle glares at our young man angrily. He states the correct answer was only due to luck, and not because the test maker intended it that way. Kyle opens his mouth wide and tries to say something, but he can't say much. Our young men are still standing in front of the board. Kyle admits our hero's right. Seal thinks he's dealt a blow to the guy's pride. He begins explaining his point of view. Our young men are standing in front of the board. Students are watching them. One writes something down in a notebook. Flame looks at what's happening in amazement. The girl's eyes become round in surprise. She can't believe the other students are writing down what Seal's saying. We see Biyam and Aiselle. Flame thinks they should have quarreled by now, but the girls listen attentively to our hero who's telling the solution to the problem. We see Flame's left eye. What she sees seems abnormal to her. In front of us is one of the academy buildings. Mayang says goodbye to our hero. Judging by the flowers flying above his head, he's clearly not indifferent to the guy. Seal, raising his hand, smiles. He covers his face with his hand. The guy curses and says if he gets involved with someone like Mayang, he can forget about tomorrow. He doesn't want to see him for the rest of his life. The guy sadly looks at his palm. Seems to him all this is because of Caravan. We see our young man's palm. He can't even use it now, but he's already attracted Mayang's attention. Seal's going somewhere. He can't understand why he came to him. There hasn't been a single case of any character using it except for Flame. Our hero sees a girl with red hair. She looks ahead with a detached expression. The guy carefully looks at the girl. He knows this is Biyam and she's probably waiting for someone here. Seal tries to quickly pass by her. He thinks this has nothing to do with him, so it's better not to even say hello. Biyam, however, calls out to our hero. Surprise appears on his face. Our young man turns his head to the girl. She looks straight at him and says she has a question for him. Our hero's super surprised. Biyam wants to ask him something. He looks at the student in surprise and asks what kind of question it is. She asks why our hero didn't explain the solution earlier. Seal thinks he simply couldn't explain it. How can you logically explain a meaningless quiz? Our young people are standing next to each other. Seal thoughtfully rubs his neck. Seems to him the girl misunderstood something. The guy says out loud he simply has nothing to say. We see the surprised face of the girl. She opens her mouth and says she understands him. Biyam folds her arms across her chest and says maybe the guy simply didn't want to tell about his solution method in such a place. The guy thinks this isn't the case at all. Surprise is visible on the guy's face. Biyam says she'll pay him. Our hero's eyes widen in surprise. Standing in front of the girl in the hallway, he asks again. She confirms she'll pay him, and quite generously. Looking at the guy, the girl asks him to tell her the solution no matter how strange it is. Our hero starts to panic. He doesn't understand what he should do. We see books standing on shelves. Seal and Biyam are sitting at the table. In front of us are several exam papers. Looking at them, Seal says he doesn't understand why the girl's paying him only for understanding 3 questions on the entrance exam. Biyam replies she has her own reasons for this, so he should just say everything as it is. Our hero agrees. Seal looks at the sheet of paper and says the girl was wrong only in these 3 questions. Should she ask for help from a person who didn't answer all the other questions? Biyam lowers her eyes. She says the only thing that bothers her is she still doesn't know the solution to these problems, and she's ready to do anything to find the answers to them. Seal looks at her in surprise and thinks she seems like a model student. He asks why the girl approached him. She stares at him. Seal looks at the exam paper again. He says she's a princess, so she must have many friends to ask. Biyam and Seal are sitting at the table. The girl says that out of 1,141 freshmen, only 3 people answered the hellish questions. Our hero looks at the girl sitting opposite him in confusion. He can't believe what she said. Biyam adjusts her hair behind her ear. She states these trick questions weren't supposed to be solved, but 3 people solved them. Mayang, Flame, and our hero. So now, she's in a difficult situation. We see the boy's hand holding the sheet of paper is shaking. He jumps up and points his finger at the form. Seal loudly asks if these were really trick questions and no one was supposed to solve them. The girl asks in surprise if our hero didn't realize this when he was solving them. Seal crumples the exam paper in his hands. He thinks the author of the questions is a real madman and understands why he ended up in Class S. Our hero's look is sad. He begins understanding why Flame kept distance from him. He simply didn't know all the intricacies of building this world. Biyam looks at our hero in confusion. Our hero thinks he had no idea such trick questions even existed. However, Flame's different because she read the entire novel. We see the girl's back. Seal realizes, even if she doesn't know the game's plot, she's familiar with most plot twists. In front of us is an exam paper. Our hero thinks this fully applies to the 3 hellish questions. A drop of sweat runs down our young man's cheek. He thinks since an outsider who's not in the original interfered with the game, Flame was forced to acknowledge the existence of a person named Beal. Our hero realizes she had a reason for acting like this. Biyam looks at our young man in surprise and asks what's happening to him. He tells the girl not to worry about it. Our hero looks down solemnly. He asks the girl if she's forgotten she promised to listen to his request in gratitude for helping her solve the problems. Biyam replies she remembers everything. Our young man looks at his buddy and says he has a super simple request. He needs to turn his staff into a magic sword. The kingdom's blacksmith should be able to do this easily. The girl's face shows genuine surprise. She says only low-level mercenaries use such weapons, and in front of her is a magician. Why did he suddenly decide to do this? Crossing his arms over his chest, our hero says it suits his style. He doesn't want to explain to the girl that he's crippled. Looking at his classmate, the guy asks if she'll help him or not. The girl, whose right eye we can see, is silent. Finally, she says she'll do everything because it's not such a difficult task. Our hero, smiling, looks at her. He's pleased. Our young man pokes his finger at the exam sheet. He says he'll tell her how to solve problems of this kind. Looking at his buddy, he says it's all about changing perspective. Biyam asks again in surprise. Our hero confirms this is exactly how it is. Biyam holds a staff in her hands. Apparently her weakness is she uses magic strictly according to the textbook. She's so stuck in routine that she only realized this in her 2nd year. The girl's sitting on the floor. We see her opponent's face. Heroes remember all this happened only after a serious defeat from Flame. Biyam and Seal are sitting opposite each other at the table. Our hero thinks he can't give her any important knowledge now, but he's able to push her in the right direction. Our hero opens his mouth and asks if the girl knows what a trivia quiz is. Seal holds out his right index finger. Biyam looks at her buddy in surprise. Standing right in front of him, she says she seems to have heard of it. Seal raises his index finger and gives an example. What is between the knee and the knee? The girl thoughtfully rubs her chin. Lowering her hand, she guesses it's the back of the knee. Seal says this isn't so. The correct answer is, and. Biyam asks why, in surprise. The guy, smiling, reminds her he asked what is between the knee and the knee. The girl looks at the guy in surprise, then her face turns angry. Seal asks Biyam not to look at him with such a furious gaze. He puts his hands out in front of her and asks her to calm down and look at the question again. We see the exam papers. Our young man says there are formulas and techniques the girl doesn't know. This means the question can only be answered using her creativity. Biyam asks in amazement if it's possible to remember creativity. She looks at our hero with wide eyes. Biyam looks down and answers it's impossible. Seal looks at her with a smile. He says of course, knowing many spells and techniques is super important. Biyam looks at our young man. He says, however, the most important thing for a magician is to look at the world beyond his thoughts. A magical formation appears next to the girl's head. Seal states magic can develop even with the most minor changes. Our hero looks at the girl and states she thinks about things the way she sees them. Spells aren't only memorized and recited. Biyam looks down sadly. Our hero says maybe she's better than he is at analytical thinking and judgment, but she lacks the most important quality for a mage, creativity. The girl thinks. She folds her arms. Biyam sits in front of our hero. The guy looks at her and notices the girl has a super serious expression on her face. Our young man rubs the back of his head. He asks if the girl understood what he said, even if it sounds pretty complicated. Biyam replies, of course, she understood. Our hero smiles. He thinks it's simply adorable since he has no idea what he's talking about. Seal tells the student he's really happy. He suggests they practice right now. We see lanterns hanging above the bookshelves. Seal asks what the man said to the horse when he put it to bed. The girl looks at our hero in surprise. Rubbing her chin with her finger, Biyam asks again, what did the man say to the horse when he put it to bed? A boy and girl are sitting at a table in a library. Biyam says she doesn't know. The boy says the answer is, it's time to sleep in the pasture. We see the exam papers again. Our hero asks why beds don't work hard. The girl says she doesn't know. Seal says the correct answer is, because they're always lying down at work. The next question is, what happened when rock, paper, and scissors started racing? Biyam looks down and says she doesn't know again. Seal holds up his index finger and says the rock started rolling while paper and scissors stayed still. The last two objects don't move, and they stay still. Biyam's shaking in her chair. We see the indignation on her face. Now she's in front of us from a different angle, and she's shaking again. Our hero realizes she's about to explode. The boy smiles and holds up his index finger. He asks what the cloud said to the ocean. Then Biyam looks at our hero in surprise. Waves and seagulls are visible behind our young man. He asks again what the cloud said to the ocean when it was raining. Biyam thoughtfully rubs her chin and remains silent. Seal and Biyam sit opposite each other. Our hero mentally begs the girl to give the correct answer. Rubbing her chin, the girl suggests the ocean said, "I am getting a bit emotional." Our hero cries out in confusion. He declares the girl's absolutely right. Biyam, clenching her fist, looks at him. A smile appears on the girl's face. Our hero looks at her. He realizes he's seen her smile for the first time, both in the game and in reality. Propping his head with his hand, the guy declares that, as befits a princess, her creativity is on another level. Biyam brings her fist to her mouth and says the guy can ask the next question. He squints and smiles. He begins asking another riddle. In front of us is a majestic academy building. We see several students. Our hero's walking somewhere. Seal seems to notice something. He opens his mouth and sighs. The boy thinks he ended up wasting 3 hours asking meaningless questions while working with Biyam. Seal remembers his conversation with the girl. He didn't expect her to believe what he told her. We see a close-up of our hero's face. Now we see Biyam looking down. Our hero thinks she's undoubtedly an excellent mage with a sharp mind, but her weakness is her inflexible way of thinking. But in order to exploit this weakness, we see our hero with other students. Even though she's a villain, he feels guilty. He needs to quickly remake Teravan into a magic sword, and this will allow him to do more. We see our young man's back. He thinks he can't do anything about what he's already done. We see the academy buildings again. Seal tells himself to stop thinking. He needs to hurry up and buy the books he needs for his classes. Seal walks down the street and shakes his head. He can't remember where the building he needed was. We see our hero's right eye seems to notice something. Our hero stands in front of an inconspicuous building. He knows he's found what he needs. We see a house with cracked walls. Now we see bookshelves. Our hero looks around the room and notices it seems super neglected. A hooded man sits at the table. Our young man knew the owner of this bookstore had a perverted habit of pretending to sleep and watching customers. The person the boy was thinking about was actually looking at him. Hidden in this nameless shabby bookstore are the study notes of Maya, a student who graduated from Stella Academy 10 years ago. We see a ghostly girl holding a book in her hand. A dialogue box appears, asking whether to agree to take the classes or not. Our hero thinks in the game this can be done by pressing a button on the screen, but in real life, you'll need a textbook on your specialty. We see several books. In addition, depending on the textbook you use, the rate at which your grade will increase will be different. At first, he bought textbooks from famous bookstores, but then he realized good ones are hidden in stores without signs. Our hero looks at a table piled high with books. Seal walks past the bookshelves. He thinks if he studies magic engineering while holding Maya's notes, he's almost guaranteed to get all the grades. But if he just puts on the bubble glasses, he'll get decent grades but will be able to figure out the hidden recipe. Judging by his face's expression, the boy notices something. A green book stands out on the shelf. Our hero reaches out to it. However, he bumps into another hand. Our hero looks at the person it belongs to in surprise. He realizes it's Aiselle. The girl looks at the boy, sadly. Students are standing in front of the bookshelves. The girl expresses surprise that our hero knows her. The boy states it makes sense since she's famous. The girl says she remembered who it is. He's a student from the supplementary group, and his name's Beal. Our hero looks at the girl in surprise. He doesn't get why she doesn't remember their meeting that happened before entering the academy. Students are standing next to each other. Aiselle says she enjoyed the debate. The only thing that was a bit disappointing was Seal couldn't finish his explanation. The guy thinks even she couldn't fully understand this matter. Aiselle walks away from our young man, saying it was nice to meet him anyway. Our hero takes one of the books from the shelf. Tom. It has a green cover. Seal thanks fate that he found it. Aiselle takes a book from the shelf. The guy tries to figure out why she came here. The girl's holding a book worth 78,000. Aiselle sighs and seems to put one of the books back. Our hero looks at his classmate, trying to figure out what just happened. We see the man in the hood again. Our hero thinks this bookstore usually sells used books. Usually poor students like himself come here. Aiselle looks at the book she picked out. Seal assumes she, as a person from a dysfunctional family who lost everything, probably has no choice but to come here. In front of us is a blood-splattered portrait. The girl's father was probably killed by dark demon people. Seal looks at his classmate with sympathy. He thinks it's pretty sad, A princess like her came to buy used books but worries about the price because she has no money. On top of that, Aiselle also met an unhappy end in the original novel. We see a burning portrait of a girl. She died before Flame, who became the main character of this world. It can be said the most unfortunate character in this game was Aiselle. A stack of books falls on the table with a thud. Our hero looks at the seller and asks to sell him the one he chose. The hooded man asks again in surprise. He thinks this young man's stronger than he looks. Seal, smiling, looks to his right. Aiselle answers him with her gaze. Students are standing next to each other. Our hero asks what's wrong. The girl answers he just looked. She guesses the guy chose several interesting topics. Seal smiles. He feels like she almost called him a nerd. There's a stack of books in front of him. The girl asks why our hero's interested in topics like advanced sealing theory. She says sealing theory is ancient magic that involves using an item. That's why in the modern world where alchemy and magical engineering are already developed, this skill is rarely used. Students are standing in front of the bookshelves again. Seal says it's true, and such information is rarely used. That's why he takes the books. Aiselle looks at the boy in surprise. The girl asks again, afraid she misunderstood our hero. Our hero smiles and says everyone thinks exactly like Aiselle. That's why it's easier to get better grades in this class. He steps away from the girl and says he'll go first anyway. With the books under his arm, the boy heads for the exit. He thinks like Aiselle said, not many people want to attend the sealing theory class, but that's why he can spend less time on it and get good grades compared to other classes. Our hero smiles. He thinks thanks to this, he won't have problems this semester. The girl's face is filled with amazement. The second day, in front of us is a 4-story building. Aiselle hugs a book to her chest. She thinks about how they're studying nihilism in the first class. The girl looks ahead. She thinks it's easy to get good grades in this subject, so everything must not be so bad. Aiselle enters the classroom and looks at the desks occupied by her classmates. There are 2 girls in front of us. One asks the other if she's really gonna study nihilism too. The other confirms this. However, she feels like she's screwed up. She signed up for this because people said it was a subject that was easy to get good grades in, but seems rumors spread quickly. All the smart students signed up for this course too. The girl feels like she's doomed. Aiselle sits at her desk. The girl sighs heavily. She thinks there's nothing she can do, and she'll have to try harder in other classes. The teacher declares the lesson's over. We see the back of one of the students. He says he's hungry. Aiselle listens sadly to what students around her are saying. One asks what he should have for lunch. The answer is, this can be decided in the cafeteria. Aiselle sighs sadly again. She's afraid if so many people study in all the courses she's enrolled in, it'll be difficult for her to get a scholarship. Aiselle clutches a book to her chest. She looks at something like a notebook. The girl thinks she should probably go get a snack first. We see the girl's profile. She sees she only has 60 meal tickets for this semester. This means today she'll most likely have to eat only bread. Aiselle seems to notice someone. She looks at our hero. Seal's looking at something through his glasses. The girl recognizes our young man. Aiselle looks at our hero in surprise and tries to understand what he's doing here. The girl notices the teacher and realizes this is a lecture. We see the auditorium. Aiselle realizes there are super few students in it, and all of them can be called slackers. The girl's look is sad. She knows the lecture might get cancelled. Aiselle's sitting at a desk. She thinks if she signs up for this class, she'll be able to raise her grades without wasting much time. The hand holding the book is shaking. Aiselle thinks if she uses the saved time to prepare for other classes, she'll be able to earn more money for a scholarship. Aiselle's eyes are full of sadness. We see our hero. The girl thinks Seal seemed to already know this class is easy to score points on. He planned all his classes in such a way as to make his life as easy as possible. Our hero adjusts his glasses. Aiselle thinks this is impossible. Too most likely it's just a coincidence. In front of us is the academy building. Our hero's sitting at a desk. The teacher expresses confidence that everyone present knows about the origin of magic. We see this woman's face. Apparently this is Leiden, professor of Divine Moon Studies. The woman says the founding mage, also called the Mage in White, spread magic throughout the world, thanks to which humans and other species learn to communicate with magic. We see a cute elf girl and an aggressive dwarf. Leiden says this mage taught the elves nature magic and the dwarfs forge magic. The professor stands behind the teacher's desk. She states humans were taught attribute magic. We see our hero. He doubts he can endure 3 years here. The boy clenches his fists. Going through school again at this age is super painful. In the game, he could have skipped all this with just a few clicks. Seal sighs heavily. He knows this lecture is actually super important. She might give a hint about what the true ending is, but it's only his guess. Seal's sitting at his desk, resting his head on his hand. We see his right eye. Aiselle's sitting next to him. Our hero tries to figure out if she's always been in this class. He doesn't remember any of the main characters taking this class. We see the girl's face. Seal glances at his neighbor. He thinks it probably doesn't matter after all. The boy looks at the teacher through his glasses. She says people's curiosity wasn't limited to attribute magic. The woman points at the board. She says human mages traveled the world and began stealing magic from other species, but even then they weren't satisfied. Professor Leiden says humans couldn't learn more magic than all this. The figure of the founding mage is visible above the professor's head. The woman says he left behind 12 divine moons and disappeared. The teacher looks at students and asks if any of them know about the 12 divine moons. Aiselle says they're guardians who protect the balance of power on the continent. They're said to have been scattered all over the continent and performed their duties until 1,000 years ago. The professor raises her pointer. She declares this is indeed the case. They had their own special powers that they used to protect the continent. We see the Earth hanging in space. Leakage declares that, for example, the divine moon that symbolizes summer, also known as the 6th moon of red summer, had a red flame that was said to never go out. In front of us is an unpleasant-looking monster that looks like a giant octopus. The professor raises her pointer. She declares, if you go into the deep sea of Alanka, you can still see the red flame. So, if any students are curious, they can go and see. We see our hero's face. He thinks this is some kind of joke. If a living creature fell into the possession of the king of the seas of Alanka, it would immediately die. Professor Leakage looks at students, pointing her instrument at the board. We see a picture of what she's pointing to. The woman explains this is the Leviana coast. A great whirlpool that appeared in the middle of the ocean was frozen by the 12th moon of blue winter. The teacher explains each of the divine moons has individual power, but it's said if they're all gathered together, a miracle will occur. One of the students raises his hand and asks what kind of miracle this is. Confusion appears on the professor's face. She says no one knows. The guardians fell asleep 1,000 years ago. Seal sadly rubs his chin. We see him with a sword in his hand. Our hero thinks the woman's right. At least he's met a few divine moons in the game, but he only met 5 of them through limited time events. Our hero sits in front of a computer monitor. Seal remembers this was only possible because he collected info from other players. There was no player in the community who managed to meet more guardians than him. We see our young man's right eye. He thinks if his assumptions are correct, then these 12 divine moons probably have something to do with the true ending. If no one's managed to reach the true ending in the past 10 years, then the answer lies in content no one's been able to reach. Seal thinks about it. He realizes he's only met 5 guardians, risking his life many times, but seems he has no other choice if he wants to witness the true ending. Now we see our hero's left eye. He realizes he'll have to do everything again. We see a dummy used for combat training. In front of us is a stunning blonde with a staff in her hand. She states, strength isn't everything. It's revealed this is Professor Hong Gil from the fire class. She states it doesn't matter how strong the attack is. If a student can't hit the enemy, then it's useless. The teacher watches students who are training on the dummies. We see this girl's eyes. There's a mannequin in front of her. An explosion occurs. Hong Gil stares ahead. Surprise appears in her eyes. The mannequin practically dissolves into thin air. Now it appears completely intact in front of her. Surprised, students are visible not far from the teacher. Hong Gil declares, this is simply terrible. We see a girl with a staff. It's Biyam, and she's super angry. Biyam's sitting on a bench. She thinks sadly about how she's embarrassed herself in front of her mother again. The girl thinks her mother must be super disappointed. The beauty's hands are folded in her lap. Someone calls her. The princess looks up. There's a rather nice girl standing in front of her. She smiles and asks if Biyam's okay. The 2 girls are sitting on a bench next to each other. The buddy tells the princess she's so wonderful. Biyam asks what the girl means. She turns to the princess and says, Biyam used the same magic as her but ended up with way more power. Biyam asks what's the point if she couldn't even aim properly. The girl beams with happiness and says the magic itself is incredible. It was really cool. She says she's heard about the princess since she was little. Biyam looks at her neighbor in surprise. She realizes this might be true since the girl's also a fire mage. Biyam remembers her name's Orang, and she seems to have heard of her. Magic formations are visible behind Orang. Biyam thinks there's a new level fire attribute genius next to her. She thought before that she was way stronger than her in magic. Looking down, Biyam says the girl's probably pleased with such high accuracy. Aurang states, if Biyam trains more, she'll surpass her by a long way. The princess suddenly stands up and asks her to stop talking nonsense. Judging by her facial expression, the girl's super angry. However, she admits after talking to Aurang, she calmed down a little. Biyam says goodbye and leaves. Aurang silently watches her go. The girl's face is sad. In front of us are the academy buildings. Biyam sighs heavily. Someone calls her again. The princess turns around. We see a slender girl in a tie. Now we can get a better look at her face. Apparently this is Biyam's exclusive guard whose name is Etan. The girl greets the princess. Etan says tea and Jinong candies have been prepared for Biyam. The princess thanks her for her concern. Etan states she has something to say about the reworking of the staff Biyam requested. Etan stands next to the princess who's sitting on the couch. She states it's a good staff and the craftsmen say it'll be made into a top-class magic sword. Biyam asks in surprise. Etan says there's, however, something rather questionable. Biyam puts a candy in her mouth and asks what it is. Etan rubs her chin with her fingers. She states the staff constantly sucks in the user's mana. Biyam looks at her guard in amazement. She stands up abruptly and asks if it's not a dark demon instrument. Etan states it's not quite like that. The staff's constantly in resonance with the energy of nature. Biyam says this is impossible. Taking the user's mana and resonating with nature's mana is something unthinkable. She asks why such a crappy staff is classified as mid-high class. Etan states that's why it's just mid-high class. The princess asks the guard to clarify what she means. Etan, looking at the girl, states the original ability greatly increased the user's mana, making it high class or higher. But since the staff drains mana just by holding it, it was downgraded to mid-high class. We see the staff in question. Biyam jumps up from her seat again. She asks in confusion how a student can wield a high-class staff. Eton states she's also completely confused. Biyam places her fingers on her forehead. She knows it's not easy to resonate with the staff. However, she doesn't think anyone would use such a weapon even if they received it for free, unless the person has an insane amount of mana or no mana at all. Biyam sits on the couch with a cup in her hand. She says she doesn't understand anything, but she's sure this commoner will figure it out. The princess sips her tea. She says the guy's unique anyway. We see old-style windows. A few days after the official start of the semester, in the classroom, a bald teacher stands in front of the board. He says offensive magic requires more detailed study than any other type of magic. Seal's sitting at a desk. Apparently the class is being taught by Mana Orbido Professor Carlem. He states this is why Mana Orbido classes are mandatory. Aiselle's sitting at one of the desks. The professor states from today on, for dual students will study Orbido with an emphasis on shooting and targeting. Carlem's writing something on the board with chalk. He proposes to discuss the orbital formula. He's drawn a man pointing to a circle drawn on the board with chalk. He dictates the problem statement. From a distance of 760 meters in the north, Chiu Alu is moving at a speed of 12.6 meters per second to the south. What is the required orbit and predicted observing distance that Yoni needs to get to Chiu using water-type magic? A professor stands at the board with students sitting in front of him. A guy sitting behind our hero states that out of all the attributes, it's water. If there's no water attribute, this question can't be answered. Our young man asks if the professor's accidentally making fun of the students. Seal yawns. He thinks all of this is boring as hell. He doesn't understand why these subjects are so much more difficult than Korean language. Carlem stands in front of the seated students. He turns to our hero and asks him to stand up and solve this problem. Seal gets up from his seat and states he'll do it. He thinks meanwhile that he's been caught again. After a while, our hero turns away from the board and says everything's ready. The professor looks at him in amazement. He praises the student for solving the problem easily. We see drawings and writing on the board. Carlem notes, the Rabor equation can be organized super simply. The teacher and student are standing in front of the board. The professor asks if our young man's first magic is really the water attribute. He says no. Carlem praises our young man and states solving these problems will continue in the next lesson. Aiselle looks ahead a little sadly. Our hero's standing in the doorway. Someone asks him for forgiveness. The guy looks back. Aiselle's standing in front of him. The girl looks at our hero with huge eyes. She states she has a question for him. Seal looks at the girl in surprise. He asks what interests her. Aiselle hugs a book to her chest, watching our hero. The girl realized something about him. We see the back of our young man's head. His grades aside, he's definitely smart, even compared to the best of the best. Aiselle remembers the guy standing at the board, declaring he'd finished his explanation. The girl looks at our young man in surprise. She thinks this can't be true. The level of this question was at least university level, ISM, or rather, even professorial. We see what was written on the board. Aiselle's sitting at the table. She thinks the guy stands out at Stella Academy, MASI, the place where all the geniuses of the generation are gathered. However, what is this person's personality? We see the profile of the guy she's thinking about. At first, Aiselle thought it was impossible, but now she's sure this person has a strategy for registering for courses. If so, she must get this info. The girl looks at our hero and asks what subject he'll take next. Seal looks at the girl in amazement. Our hero and Aiselle are standing opposite each other. The guy wonders why the girl's asking this. Does she really care about him? Aiselle states our young man saying disgusting things. He replies, her question disgusts him even more. Seal rubs the back of his head. He remembers he's in fact an adult and does something indecent. He asks the girl why she needs this info. Aiselle clutches the book to her chest with both hands. She says she made inquiries about the classes our hero attends, and apparently they're all such where one can easily get high grades. Looking at our young man, she directly asks where he learned this strategy. The girl asks him to answer because it's super important to her. Our young man raises his right hand. He was wondering what the girl was gonna ask, and now he seems to understand what it was. Seal laughs. He asks what does learn mean? It's just a coincidence. Our young man turns around and declares if that's all, then he'll go. Aiselle looks at him in confusion. Seal leaves. The girl shouts at him to wait. She looks after our hero in confusion as he leaves. A drop of sweat runs down her cheek. Aiselle begs the guy to stop. Seal turns around, burning with shame. The girl approaches our hero and asks him again to wait at least a second. He asks why the hell she's following him. You can learn from anyone at this academy. There are many smart people here. The girl can also just copy what he does. She said she inquired about him. Aiselle's worried. standing in front of the guy. She declares everyone who takes Divine Moon Study gets an A+, so in this particular case, none of this matters. However, if she signs up for other classes he's taking, it can negatively affect his grades. We see the girl's sad face. Our hero remembers she'll lose the most if she doesn't get a normal scholarship. However, even in this situation, she worries about other people's grades. Of course, she irritates him a little, but seems she still has the main female role. Aiselle looks at him with a pleading look. She asks him to recommend at least one subject in which it's easy to get a good grade. Seal asks if the girl really thinks her appearance will convince him of something. Aiselle touches her cheek with her hand. She says it's weird. Usually when she looks at her face, she gets rid of stress. Our hero asks if the girl's serious about this. She giggles, covering her mouth with her fist. Aiselle says she was joking. She knew the guy would behave like this, so she prepared compensation. The guy asks again in surprise. He closes his eyes in disappointment. Seal doesn't understand why all these kids like to offer compensation so much. Where did they become such snobs? The girl asks him if he knows anything about the history of Phantom Tower number 7. Seal looks at his buddy in amazement and says he does. Aiselle's surprised because super few people know about this object. The girl looks at our hero in surprise. She says it's an abandoned building that has disappeared. In addition, there are lots of barriers that prevent people from even getting close to the place where the tower used to be. Our hero interrupts her and asks her to wait. We see the girl's surprised eyes. Seal touches his head with his hand. Aiselle asks if he's okay. The guy thinks he's about to go crazy. We see his right eye. Our hero thinks this is really important info because with its help, Flame can significantly increase his affection for the male protagonist. We see the girl's back. So the fact that Flame knows this means in the original novel, Aiselle knew this too. An open book is visible above their heads. The guy realizes Aiselle should have passed this info on only to the male protagonist, and not to a weirdo like him. Seal turns around and starts to leave. He says it's a scary story and he doesn't want to hear it. He's not interested. There's a gorgeous old window in front of us. Aiselle says it's not that scary. It's shameful to be afraid of ghosts at the guy's age. She says she'll just tell him everything for free. The girl looks at our hero with hostility. She says he acted like he wasn't going to share with her, but now he seems to have changed his mind. Our hero says, sometimes that happens. The boy stares at the girl. He thinks it's enough that she sincerely wants to share with him. Aiselle's still clutching the green book to her chest. Our hero's half turned to the girl. He says it has nothing to do with grades, but what he recommends will be super useful to the girl. He advises her to take Meditation of the Journey to the Abyss as a humanities subject. Aiselle looks at our young man in surprise. She says that means studying the Divine Moon and meditation to boot. She asks if the guy's into cultivation. He replies he doesn't practice anything like that. Seal tries to figure out how to explain his idea to the girl. He raises his right hand to head level. Our hero states his teacher was a bishop like Aiselle, and thanks to meditation, she was able to significantly increase her magical power. The girl's eyes become round with amazement. She asks if she achieved such a result only thanks to meditation. We see a woman with a staff in her hands. Seal replies, in fact, this isn't yet known, but for bishops who own large-scale destruction magic, meditation is extremely important. The woman's kneeling with her hands folded in front of her. According to the guy, this is due to the fact that the exact use of spells follows from formulas and equations, but ultimately comes from the mind that moves mana. Aiselle and Seal are standing opposite each other. The guy states he usually doesn't tell anyone about this, but the girl's an exception since she's super cute. Aiselle reminds our young man he called her ugly. The girl smiles despite everything. She thanks our hero. It's a pity this isn't the subject that can improve her grades, but she'll still enroll in it. We see the academy windows again. Our hero says the girl's free to do as she pleases. Aiselle, smiling, turns away from our young man. She leaves, and our hero watches her go. His gaze is thoughtful. He realizes he told her everything, and he's a little scared by the thought of how this can affect his future. We see Aiselle with whom something super unpleasant is happening. The guy knows if he simply leaves her because of some fear of his, then she'll die a tragic death in this life. It would be great if meditation helped her. Seal smiles. Now he notices something. Our hero looks at his hand in surprise. He remembers he's also a magician. Why didn't the thought of training occur to him before? We see a young man with a sword. Our hero remembers. Seal persistently trains his body in the game, awakens magical strengthening of the body, and grows a lot. Our hero goes down the stairs. He thinks about the fact that in the game, you can get experience with one click of a button. Now he can do it directly. It's been quiet lately anyway. No episodes, no monster hunts, so he can't gain experience. A smile appears on our hero's face. He thinks he should be grateful to Aiselle. Seal walks on the carpet. He thinks the dorm's certainly big. In front of us is one of the school buildings. In Stella Academy, all students live in dorms. We see a made bed. The dorm system was supposed to be additional content in the game where you can decorate your room for fun. But for Beal, this is essentially the only home since his village burned down. We see our hero's bare feet. The dorms are divided according to the class each character is in. The size of the rooms is the same, but the number of people in each room varies depending on the class. Seal sits on the floor with his legs crossed under him. Of course, S class got the top floor. Our hero was a little lonely, but he can finally use his room for its intended purpose. The boy sighs heavily. He's about to start working. Seal places his hands on his knees. He closes his eyes and thinks stats aren't the most important thing. Since this is reality, he needs to get used to this body. Our hero holds a glowing sword in his hands. In the game, Beal was a genius who was able to manifest the aura of the sword by using the fact that mana endlessly circulates in and out of him. We see our hero wearing a cloak from the back. No one paid attention to him, so no one knew this. But Beal is a genius swordsman, the only one in this world who's reached the pinnacle of mastery. Our young man sitting in the lotus position thinks he needs to walk this path again. A faint glow appears around his head. Seal realizes his breathing dictates the flow of mana through his body. If he can slowly increase the amount of mana with each breath, he'll eventually get enough of it at once. A white haze rises up. Skills don't increase by just gaining experience. To increase skill level, you need to constantly use it. The glow around our young man's figure increases. This means all you need to do is train. In front of us is a clock. We now see the room's windows. A white haze rises around our hero's head. Amazement appears in our young man's eyes. He raises his hands and opens his mouth. Our hero realizes this is the same feeling Beal must have felt, which looks at his hands. He thinks the hero of the game accepted the mana leak syndrome as part of himself at a young age. Now this feeling's super weak, but he definitely feels it. Our young man looks ahead in amazement. He sees two notifications. It says the mana leak syndrome skill and the blink skill have increased. Our hero thinks this is simply amazing. Our young man looks at his clenched fist. He realizes he's become one step closer to his goal. He'll get the true ending no matter what. In front of us is a green lawn. In front of us is Flame, adjusting her hair behind her ear. She thinks the lawn and wind seem to be artificially created with magic, but they feel real. In front of us is a monumental building with a huge dome. The Stella dome is a kind of pocket dimension installed on the Academy campus. It allows you to freely control the size of the place and its features. Now in front of us are students holding magic staffs in their hands. All sports events and other types of events, as well as dungeons, gates, and training with monsters, all this is held here. Students are standing on a green lawn. We see Flame's face. The girl's standing behind the backs of two male students. She thinks there are only 141 people present here, 50 people from classes A1 and A2, and 41 from class S. We see the girl from a different angle. She thinks if everything were like in the novel, there would be 39 people from class S. She expected there would be 40 inches total, including herself. We see the girl's profile. She realizes another student has joined them. Flame looks at our hero from behind. She can't understand where the character named Beal came from. In the novel, there were 1,140 students in the first year, and with her addition, there were 1,141. In front of us is a portrait of a young man. In other words, this means Beal was in the original novel too. The girl looks ahead a little sadly. She thinks she'll slowly figure everything out. Everything's fine and she can handle it. After all, she's the only person in the world who knows the novel. We see an open book above her head. The girl's walking along a green lawn. She thinks the lesson will start soon. Someone turns to young Master Jeremy, asking if he's finished registering for the class. Flame looks to the left in surprise. In front of us is a smiling blonde man. He replies, he's already done everything. His buddy says he and a few others signed up for the soft magic research course because they heard he signed up for it too. Jeremy smiles brightly. He suggests his buddies have fun together. Flame, standing nearby, looks at the happy boy. It's Prince Jeremy. We see the man's face up close. Now he's sitting on the throne with a thoughtful look. The girl remembers in the novel he was obsessed with Aiselle, but she rejected him. In the end, he'll become a villain. He looks kind, but his every action's calculated. The girl stands nearby with a scared look. She thinks she should be careful not to get too close to him. We see the left side of the prince's face. Now he's smiling, raising his palm. Flame waves back. She thinks the boy's certainly super handsome. She gets why so many people are sucking up to him. Prince Jeremy's gang is probably the most noticeable in this school. We see our young people in question. Flame turns and walks away. She thinks she needs to get herself together since this world is her current reality. She needs to prepare for the future. The boy seems to be looking sideways at the girl. Judging by his look and thoughts, he has some kind of feelings for her. Someone approaches the students. This person's about to tell them something important. In front of us is Han Wall. He declares he'll start the lesson with a simple training session and then proceed to the main part of the lesson. He must know students' skill level in order to properly teach them in the future. The professor declares he'll supervise their training. Han Wall looks sternly at students and declares if they don't like it, it's not his problem. He states, as everyone already knows, professors have the right to subtract or add points. Students listen silently to their teacher. He declares if they score less than a certain number of points, they'll be expelled. The professor's about to announce the essence of the training. The man holds out his right hand and declares they'll be taken to a dungeon. He'll use situations that occur in real dungeons, as well as traps and monsters, to test all students. In front of us is some kind of weird chest with teeth. Students will receive 4 points if they destroy a monster of the first danger level, 8 points for a monster of the second level, and 20 points if they get a pointer. Above the professor's hand hangs a short golden rod, which he's probably talking about. The object seems to dissolve into thin air. The teacher announces the 5 best students will receive a small reward and privileges in the store. Students who fail will have their points taken away. If someone's afraid of failing or acting alone, they can team up with other students. Flame looks at the professor with wide eyes. He says in this case, the points will be divided among all team members. If they manage to destroy an ally, the killer will receive all the points that were intended for the deceased. Hanwal disappears from where he was just standing. He manages to wish the stunned students good luck before leaving. We see weird ripples on the lawn. Students scream in confusion. The ground trembles beneath their feet. Something crawls out of the ground, making super strange sounds. Flame looks at what's happening in front of her in amazement. Students, not believing their eyes, look at the huge trees that have appeared next to them. The girl realizes this is the Jack and the Beanstalk card. We see plants typical of the jungle. Students are standing in a small clearing, flames visible behind them. The girl looks at her staff and thinks it's time for her to go. Someone calls her. The girl looks around. A brown-haired girl with a childish face asks if Flame will do the practical task alone. She recognizes Jackie. The girl thinks creating a team for the time of practical classes in the dungeon gives many advantages, but it's still better to act alone to earn more points. Flame apologizes and says this time she'll try to do everything by herself. Jackie puts her hand to her chest. She says she understands her classmate. She'll have to distribute points between her teammates, so there's nothing she can do. Flame tries to figure out if she was being sarcastic. Flame watches the girl leave and offers to go with her next time. She agrees. Flame looks at her classmate's back in confusion. For some reason, the girl thinks Jackie keeps imitating her in everything. She approaches another student and tells her Flame will be doing the practical task alone. Her buddy says with this appointment, there's nothing she can do about it. Flame sighs. She assumes it's just a phase. An hour later, we see some blue splashes over the jungle. Flame, holding a staff, realizes she's pretty tired and wants this damn practical lesson to be over already. Judging by the girl's eyes, she notices something. A huge plant with green stems appears in front of her. The girl's staff emits powerful rays. Looks like the plant decided to retreat. Super thin stems stretch upward. The girl looks to her left in surprise. She knows she had to face not only monsters but also field attacks. All this is in Stella's traditions. Even practical training in the dungeon shouldn't be underestimated. Dried leaves lie on the ground. Flame thinks at the moment she's scored 18 points. This isn't bad, but the competitors are unlikely to be far behind her. The girl realizes she needs to move on and sets off. She notices something again. A figure's visible in the distance under the trees. The presence of this entity doesn't cause Flame a super pleasant feeling. Maybe it's a monster. The outline of the figure seems familiar to us. Flame knows it's a person. The girl looks at him in surprise. She can't understand how a student can hide his presence to such an extent. We see the girl's huge eyes. However, she doesn't see anything terrible in this. In the end, she also hides her presence, using unity with nature. The girl peeks out from behind a tree. She thinks by using Flame's abilities, namely binding, destruction, defense, and healing, she can successfully ambush the enemy. Flame looks at our young man from behind the tree. Her eyes widen in surprise. She recognizes our hero. We see our young man's profile. The boy looks back. Flame realizes he too decided to take the practical task alone. She remembers many students tried to recruit him to their squads, but seems he rejected them all. The girl keeps watching our hero from behind the tree. She doesn't understand what our young man's thinking. She notices a yellow object in the boy's hand. Flame's perplexed when she recognizes the pointer. She can't believe he's already received it. Flame raises her staff. She thinks this is the perfect chance. She's gonna test this man. Seal, whose face is rather sad, doesn't notice Flame standing behind him. The girl uses the light cluster skill. Her staff glows brightly. We see our hero's back. Flame determines the distance between her and him is about 15 meters, and at such a distance, he won't be able to use defensive tactics. A magical formation's visible under the girl's feet. Flame stares at her opponent. She uses the light bullet skill. A powerful stream of yellow energy rushes at our hero. The projectile flies up to our young man's head. Seems Seal notices the danger. He uses the blink skill. His figure becomes ghostly. Flame exclaims in confusion, seeing what's happening not far from her in the jungle. A scorched patch of land is visible. Flame's holding a staff in her hands. She doesn't understand what happened. The girl looks super upset. She asks how our hero managed to avoid a second-class spell at such a distance. Meanwhile, our hero uses the blink skill again. He quickly rushes somewhere through the jungle. The guy notices the girl who tried to make an attempt on his life. He asks himself if she really wanted to kill him using light bullet out of nowhere like this. The guy thanks God. The level of Mano leakage syndrome is increasing. Otherwise, he'd be in huge trouble. We see the info card of the blink skill. Class 1, max range 12 meters, max quantity 2, duration 3 seconds. Seal looks at the blue window. He realizes he can use his skill twice, so if he takes advantage of the terrain, he can deal with the enemy. However, it's still better to avoid her. Our hero immediately uses his skill 2 more times. Seal turns sharply to the left. He thinks everything should be fine and he's already far away from the enemy. His goal at the moment is 5th place, so he doesn't need to take too many risks. In front of us are plant roots. They're reportedly ethereal roots. Seal knows they're given as a reward for 5th place and can then be used to increase health and strength. Our hero, holding a yellow pointer, walks forward. He understands the first 4 places will still be taken by the main characters. In this state, they need 3 more pointers. Someone asks who came here. Seal looks up in surprise. There are at least 2 students in front of him. It turns out there are several more. Their leader recognizes our hero and says this is Seal from Class S. Our hero looks at our young people standing in front of him with concern. Opposite our hero are 5 students. One of them repeats this is the same Beal from Class S. Our young man looks at his opponents with concern. He pays attention to their blonde leader. Seal recognizes him. This is Raiden, who's become super famous in the academy in recent days. Our hero looks closely at his opponent. He's a member of the Usul gang, who himself is a subordinate of Jeremy. Thus, he's a member of the gang of the one who's a member of another gang. We see our hero's huge eyes. He pays attention to what Raiden's holding in his hand. Our hero realizes he has 3 pointers. Seal thinks he's taken too many of these subjects for a worthless guy. One of the students tells the blonde that according to his info, Beal's a failing student who cheated to get into Class S. Raiden, smiling, folds his arms over his chest. He says the level of Stella Academy's really dropped lately if they accept you into Class S for answering 3 super weird questions. Our hero thinks his opponents clearly lack creativity. They repeat the same phrases. Raiden calls out to him. The guy's smiling, holding 3 pointers at once. He offers our hero to give up his pointer since they've met here. Seal calmly replies he doesn't want to do it. Raiden still cheerfully asks the guy if he's going to resist them. He holds out a simple staff and asks our hero if he really thinks he can face them all alone. Raiden ironically asks if Seal's going to use his amazing mid-high class staff. He then states the opponent can't even use magic, let alone a staff. Seal looks at the opponent thoughtfully and tries to figure out what to do. 3 students stand in front of him. Our hero thinks with the first class of the blink skill, it'll be difficult to face a guy who comes from a famous family. If he had 3 charges of the skill, then it'd be a completely different matter. However, one option comes to his mind.